Hello there, and welcome to the Casual Coders podcast. My name is Kyle. I'm here with Ian, Alex, and Chandler. Let's get right into the topics today. I'm super excited. So,
we got a good one for you today.
Excited.
We're going to try to avoid news topics and just talk about fun things.
We want to talk about casual coder stuff. Let's talk about casual coder
stuff. All right, Ian, you need a freaking password manager, and so do you, Alex.
I already use a password manager.
What is your password
I used
manager?
the built-in Firefox one. It's great.
But do you use random passwords?
Yes.
Okay, good. Alex?
Here's how I am about this. I don't want to get too deep into it. One,
Security by obscurity?
I tried a password manager. I think I tried LastPass maybe 10 years ago. And at the time, it wasn't for me. Maybe I'd give it another shot, but here's what I do now. I wrote a program in Python that is a cipher that I have not seen anyone use yet, that I was super into in high school. It's got matrices, and I'll leave it at that. I was super into this, thought it was super cool. I could encrypt stuff. So I created my own, it's not base 64, but it's kind of like that, where you could encode stuff in this, encryptable format, and then wrote down my passwords in there. So I have an encrypted file that has a list of the passwords I actively use. I reuse passwords for the websites I don't care about. Your random form with GTA mods, yeah, I'm gonna use the same password on like 3 other websites. My financials, they have a completely different password. I don't mess around with financials, and then important accounts like Google, because it controls all my other accounts. Those ones I got good passwords on, but everything else I'm like, what is it, 9 characters? All right, here's some random garbage. That's good enough. I don't feel like I need a password manager. I mean, my passwords are better than most people's, I would say.
All of my passwords are random 32-character strings.
That's silly.
That is a little silly. I agree with
No,
Alex
it's not,
here.
because that makes it literally impossible for
Okay.
man.
They can't use one of these to crack your
All
password.
right, here's where I'm at this. That's great if the website supports it, but I tried to set my password for my bank to have a pound symbol in it, and they're like, that's not an acceptable character. What? Okay, we can
My
get
bank
down the
allowed
rabbit hole
that,
of bad
so-
restrictions for passwords already. If they're like, your password can't be this, I'm like, why are you even reading it? Stop reading the password. Just store it somewhere, please, not in plain text, and we're good. We
Just
don't
store
need
the
rules.
hash like you're supposed to.
Right, but there's so many people that are like, oh, your password can't be the same as someone else's. I mean, there's so much bad code out there.
Do they still do that?
No,
I
they
thought-
don't. I mean, well,
okay.
some... It just
Maybe
depends.
they do. It's
Who
stored
writes
in
the
a fucking
website?
dictionary or
a
something.
company
or a
that
map.
we used to work for had a bad habit of asking us for our passwords over email, and I went no, and the IT guy got mad.
So
I'm
yeah,
like, what the hell?
this opened my eyes to the corporate world when they're like, okay, welcome here. You know, this is your onboarding. Here's what we need to tell you about IT. Blah blah blah, and they'll tell you the spiel. Never give your password to anyone. We're not going to ask for your password. And then I needed a computer thing, and they're like, hi, yes, this is IT. What's your password? And I thought that was a joke. I was like. Good one, guys. No, I'm not going to give you my password. And they said, no, but we need to install this on your computer. And what?
Wait, what do you mean?
You need my password? What? No. And so I finally, last time I talked to IT, this is after we switched to the more corporate IT, they at least said, okay, we will reset your password for you, and then you can just set it again. And I thought at least that was a compromise for somebody that did not understand like network security at a company.
Though I worked there when the IT was not the corporate IT, and it was like the smaller town IT guy who
There were
was
two IT people.
There was
they
two
took
IT
shifts.
guys that ran the entire company pretty much, and a company of 1,500 people.
It's a lot of people.
It was a lot of people for 2 guys. So every time I needed something done to my, which it seemed like it was always us engineers who were knocking on their door like, hey, my
Always
computer.
need software,
We always
always
need
need
new stuff on our
hardware.
computers. So every time what I would always do is I would do what the new corporate IT does. I would set a random password. I would give them the new random password, and then I would change it back to my old password. That's what I would always
And
do.
that's the compromise. That's
Yeah.
basically what you get.
But I had to do it for them,
Yep.
which was annoying.
Yeah, at least they did it for me last time I needed them to do something.
So one thing we might have jumped the gun is, what is a password manager?
Oh, it's just a piece of software that encrypts all of your passwords, so that way only you can access them. That's
And
pretty much
automatically
just it.
generates
New
encrypted
passwords for you, yeah. You can
They're
also-
effectively encrypted passwords. It's just a giant long string
Yeah.
of random digits and characters.
Yeah, which means them impossible to guess, which is exactly
Impossible
why
to guess, yes.
I like them. That's why I prefer them.
I mean, they're great, but I'll jump back on. You don't need a 32-character super secure password for some dumb, like,
okay, that's
dodgy
fine, but if my
website or
password
whatever.
manager stores it anyway, I don't give a shit.
See, I
I
think
mean,
that's
yeah,
the
sure, but
I can see the point with people saying that like passwords in general should be 2 things. They should be hard to guess and easy for you to remember. And
Yeah.
what password managers do is they say, well, I'll make it impossible to guess, but also impossible to remember. So the only convenience there is like you need the app or the program or something on your phone at all times, or else you can't enter your password. So for most people, that's a non-issue, I guess, like that are super into, I have it on my phone, I have it everywhere, but for like a public computer, I could see how that make it difficult.
My specific password manager I'm using, I'm not going to say what it is because security by obscurity.
Okay.
But my specific password manager allows you to log in through any internet browser using 3-factor authentication.
That's a lot of factors.
3-factor
authentication. Well, up to 3 factors. I think I only have 2 enabled.
I'm all for multi-factor authentication, basically removing the need for passwords at all.
Well, then that's the next topic I want us to talk about.
Well, let's talk about it.
Oh, let's talk about it. So I'm actually in the camp that I think we should get rid of passwords. I think we should only use 2-factor authentication to authenticate people.
I mean, a PIN at this point is completely unnecessary. It's not helpful. You could guess every PIN with a computer in seconds at the worst.
I use 2FA on accounts that support it.
It's basic security, though, like a lock, right? You put a lock on your front door, but you have glass windows. The easiest way into your house is to smash a glass window and dive through.
And I think that's a great argument for not needing to be all sweaty about passwords, right?
Right, the PIN is just to prevent some, low-level thief.
A PIN is bars on your windows.
Right, exactly. It's a super, it's the lock on your front door. Sure, it's easy enough to bypass if you put enough time into it.
Right.
But it's faster to just, I don't know, whatever. You could steal an iPhone or whatever and you resell that, or steal someone's phone and sell it back, as opposed to trying to break into their, I don't know, whatever account.
But modern 2-factor authentication methods such as TOPT or something like that, I don't know what else.
I don't want to deal with another app.
Let me look up what it's called. There's a specific standard.
You're sounding like a boomer right now.
Every time. I am a fucking
Back in my day, we just had a...
Yeah, back in my day, we just write down our little password.
Yeah, put it in a notebook in the drawer.
But here's the problem. SMS is inherently insecure, so you can't use that. That's a bad idea.
I mean, so is HTTP, right?
But it's not. That's not what it is. It's something. It's a different standard. It's used by all the major authentication apps, and basically the idea is that your PIN is only good for 60 seconds or something like that. So you have 60 seconds to input your PIN, or else it goes away. And if you guess it wrong more than twice, they just wipe it and make you try a new one.
That's fair.
That way, you can't have a hacker going through and trying every single PIN as fast as possible. Right. It'd be impossible.
Sure.
So that's the 2-factor authentication that I support. Now, a lot of newer websites I've noticed, like Vercel is a good example, as well as a few other, especially very software programmer type crowds. Instead of having a password, they'll just either have you authenticate with a known account that has 2-factor authentication, like GitHub.
Yeah.
Or they'll have you put in an email, and instead of having you set a password on that email, they'll just send you a code every time to log in.
Yeah, a lot of websites are doing that.
I would rather have that.
That's fair.
It feels more secure to me. Now, that being said, if someone hacks my email, I'm screwed. I would rather have 2-factor on that. I would rather have, you have to put in a code from your Authenticator app, and you get an email. That's what I would want.
This is like kind of a bad, I'll just bring it up. I think this is something I found as a big inconvenience though about like 2-factor authentication for me personally that I know maybe some other people, I don't know what your experience is in this, but I live a little bit far out from the city. I mean, we're not in like the boonies, but we're not like near downtown either. And my cell reception is actually really bad. So if I need a multi-factor authentication code like texted to me, it sucks. I don't get service in my house most of the time. I mean, just recently I was able to get slightly better service, but I work in the basement and I'll have to like make an effort to go upstairs if I want to take a phone call or if I want to log into a website. And sometimes, if you connect back to the tower, you still got to wait maybe 5 minutes. Last time I tried to log in at Coinbase, I could not log in because every single time, by the time I got the code, it had expired already.
Does Coinbase force you to use the SMS, or can you have another 2-factor authentication?
I had to use a code on my phone, and I was so pissed about it. So I mean, I don't know if I can change that now. I'm not really active on Coinbase, but I mean, it was so inconvenient. So I mean, like, there's a better way of doing it, I'm thinking.
My bank requires me to use SMS, and I hate it. I would rather them not use SMS. I would rather them use some other standard for 2-factor. I think it would be more secure.
We could do a lot better.
What about a physical key?
The physical
YubiKey
the YubiKey hardwares. I mean,
I have a similar issue with that as I do with the 2-factor authentication. I don't often keep my phone on me. I'll leave it at a desk or run around or whatever, or forget it, or like not think to check it or care about it. Like, I'm not that connected to my phone.
He does
where
live
it's constantly on me.
Never mind.
Like, if I could go outside or I could go somewhere, I don't need to carry a computer on me.
Okay, so
how am I getting in, right? I would forget 100% a flash drive. I can barely remember to bring my own phone or wallet with me.
Well,
my wallet lives in my backpack.
Okay.
And I just bring that with me to school. I've forgotten my wallet driving places and whatever
that's
so
terrible.
many times.
I'm like the complete opposite. I'm like,
I'm
driving somewhere. Where's my wallet?
Yeah, where's my wallet? That's how I am too.
Yeah.
So I'm under the opinion that I think the best form of security for authenticating to a website is the way that I'm going to go back to crypto again. The way that crypto authentication should be, and it is going to be with peer-to-peer authentication of RSA, where you have a public and a private key, and every couple of weeks you switch them out.
That's interesting.
I think that is the best way for security, but nobody is going to do that.
Well, see,
It's so much
how
work.
Where's the key?
It's so much work.
Where do you keep the key?
Exactly, and that's the problem. Like, for example, with SSH, because I remote into computers a lot. I like using SSH, and I like having a private key on my laptop, and I have a public key on my server. That way I can do SSH my server, and it auto connects. I don't need a password.
Right.
It just uses the private key, and it encrypts it, and all that other fun stuff.
Yep.
So, like, and that's how I think authentication on a website should be. I think your browser should store a private key. So when you go to that website, it authenticates with the private key like SSH. And if you want to do another factor of authentication, like it texts you a code, or not texts you, but like it sends you a code on your phone or your email or whatever, cool. That's another factor of authentication that you can use.
Well, I guess like
I mean, you'd have to encrypt the keys on the browser.
Only if it's a public browser, though. Because, for example, my private key is not encrypted on my laptop.
I guess that's a good point.
Yeah, it's not encrypted because who the hell's going to have access to my laptop?
Then why do you use a password manager, right?
I use
your laptop is, I don't know, right?
No, I use a
Store
password
all your
manager
passwords
because
in an Excel
hackers,
sheet.
because people can access those services without me on my laptop. That's why I use a password manager, because I can make random passwords they can't guess. If you don't have hackers have gotten smart, and they'll actually check dictionary words and combinations first. So that's why I'd rather use a random password. It's more secure.
Right.
That being said, realistically, no, I don't need a 32-character random password on my Discovery Plus account. No. Because the only people, like, I don't know. But still, it makes me feel better to have it like that.
The password manager I have actually has a feature where you get to choose between a super crazy hash.
Oh, yeah,
like
or
you're
you
saying.
can do the, what is it? You can switch it to the phrases where it's like a bunch of random words.
Oh, yeah,
That way
passphrases.
Yeah, so that way you don't have the issue you're saying, which is like a thing that you totally can't guess. It's easy to remember.
I don't know. That's just so much more susceptible to a dictionary attack. But yeah.
I
Well, no,
disagree.
it does mix in other characters too, though, to make sure it's good. But
Sure,
it's
I
in a
can just
very
do that
real
on my
format.
own, though. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, the problem is that when people do it on their own, they almost always will just be too lazy to like come up with something new, so they'll use their old passwords. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I know people like
Football 1.
yeah,
right.
for everything.
Oh, I gotta
All
have a
of
new
them.
password? Football 2.
My grandma's account, like, they got all of my accounts at once. How did they do that? And I'm like, did you use the same password and everything? And then she's like,
There's your problem.
Yeah. And like, there's your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just, all right. So, I don't know. Does anyone else have any final thoughts about 2FA and passwords and stuff?
I actually
Security?
really have been most pleased out of all the multi-factor authentication methods with the code generators on my
Well,
phone.
that's what I'm talking about. Where the code generators, where they generate a code and you have to put it like SteamGuard.
Yeah, I completely
Everyone
forgot
has to,
about it.
They
Or
basically
Authy.
pretty much force you to use SteamGuard, which I think is
Yeah,
great.
Authy,
The one thing
Google
I don't
Authenticator.
like about that is that it's just yet another program on my phone.
I mean,
I
that's
don't
fair.
care about
very
it, like,
many
2
programs on my
megabyte
phone.
program on
I
your
care
phone.
about battery life, all that stuff. So I'd
It
rather
doesn't
just get the
affect
text.
either.
It doesn't
I
affect
don't
anything.
care.
'Cause it's
Okay,
the
but
only
here's the thing. Don't ever use Google Authenticator. I hate it.
Okay.
You know why? Google Authenticator doesn't back up your account. It is
Okay.
locked locally to your phone.
Yeah.
And while I am normally...
I have backup codes in my wallet.
See, now that's great. You have backup codes, but here's...
Over 10 years old.
Yeah, but that's... You think they'll still work?
Oh, I know they will.
Oh, you know they will?
Yes.
Okay.
I've
'Cause here's
used
the-
one of them.
Here's
Nice.
here's the problem with like that. I would, whenever I got this phone, I was using Google Authenticator, okay? So when I wanted to transfer all of the 2-factor authentication codes to this
Oh,
phone,
yeah, that is a pain.
I had to scan a QR code on my old phone.
That doesn't sound inconvenient.
It was a little
You have to do that to set it up anyway, right?
Yeah, but you know how Authy does it? It's your phone number and they send you an SMS.
That's fair.
They don't have a password either.
I mean, wouldn't you argue then that I guess that Google is more secure? It's just more irritating for you?
Yeah.
It's just more
I think
inconvenient.
it is more secure, but if I like say, for example, I
Google,
lost my
secure?
phone,
That's a strange
I'd be screwed.
I gotta say, I really love Discord's login with the QR code. You just scan it.
I love
that.
those.
Is so
Dude,
cool.
I
That's my
love
favorite
those.
thing.
Those are one of my favorite. I think that
you
again,
just scan it and you're in.
Telegram
Yeah.
has the same feature. It's really nice.
It's so fun.
I think that
I
should
love
be
that.
another feature that should be implemented more.
I wish everybody did that.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
Whatever.
But yeah, so
I'm the one odd one at this table. Just like, yeah, whatever. I'd rather
All right.
just have a text. Oftentimes, no reason for me to use 2FA. I'd rather have the choice between using it or not
Fair
instead
enough.
of being forced to use
dude,
it.
if I like
For
some-
certain things,
I would consider doing
obviously, if it's a
3FA.
super important
Like,
Yeah.
password,
If I
absolutely,
could, I
I'll have
would.
2FA. But I don't know. Most of the stuff I do isn't like, 2FA worthy.
What about your bank?
Yeah, it's got 2FA on it.
Okay, good.
But that's like the main thing, right? That needs 2FA. And
I don't want anyone accessing my damn IRA. Like,
yeah. But I don't know. I'd rather have the choice, right? I see many of
Well,
many
I'm
of my
assuming. Let me
accounts
guess. You have
as
Steam Guard though,
unnecessary.
right?
Yeah.
Because they pretty much force you to, or else like you lose out on a bunch of functionality.
Steam sends me an email with a password.
Okay, that's close enough. I think they give you the same functionality as long as you use email.
Yes, effectively.
But I want to switch topics a little bit.
Yeah, password, pass, NAS.
Well, no, that's actually the topic I was going to, because I mentioned SSH. I'm thinking SSH servers. Kyle just built a server.
I
Yeah.
did build a server.
I want to hear all about it.
Oh man, there's one other last thing I want to say about passwords. Though.
Okay,
And
let's
that's
hear it.
where
Get the last word in.
The last word in is I want to mention. Let's say there's someone listening right now who totally has been using Football One for all their passwords. What is a recommendation for them in a nice, easy, simple to digest manner of like what do you need in order to have
Choose a stronger password. Two-factor authentication, but I guess Ian's saying that he doesn't like it 'cause it's inconvenient, but I'm still going to preach and say you should have two-factor authentication on everything.
I
One
mean,
is one
I
of the
say it
top
depends
100
on
most
what
used
the account
passwords.
is.
That's so sad.
I guess it does
depends on
depend.
what
If
the
it's like
account
some
is.
random forum account, I guess it doesn't matter that much, but it's your bank
oh
password.
man, my Reddit account got hacked.
Yeah, like your high
Ooh.
school account. I feel like that was the one that was really prone to all those silly ass passwords. People would always be like, "Oh yeah, my password is 1 2 3 4 5," and they were proud of it. They didn't care.
Yeah,
like
but
okay,
okay, but your bank should be something strong and secure, and you should have two-factor
Know
authentication.
what you should care about. That's my advice to those people: is know what you should care about. If
I think that's good advice. Yeah.
yeah, if you want to be more secure,
If you want to be like me and have random 32-character passwords for everything, do it. If you want to just be like Ian and only having 2FA and secure passwords on your bank, that's fine too. It's just I'm paranoid and I would rather be paranoid.
I would recommend to use a password manager though for the
Yeah.
average person.
yeah.
Like I agree, it can be a little bit more annoying, but they have ways around it where there's browser extensions or an
Well, yeah,
application
like
you have on your phone.
oh my gosh, I'm gonna continue this topic. My girlfriend's mom all the time, she's like, I don't remember my password, and I'm like, okay, cool, why?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, and then she complains about how, and I guess I've complained about my girlfriend's boomer mom too much. I need to stop. Sorry, Judy. But she needs to like sit down, either write down all of her passwords, and then that's another thing. Is like, is it okay to have all my passwords written down on paper? Yeah, it's not digital. A hacker can't look it up or somehow get into it. The only way they can do that is they break into your house.
Right.
Which you could argue is one of the 3 factors of something you
Exactly.
have. You know.
Yeah.
So
if you want to do what
a
I
list
do
of all your passwords
and
in your
be-
desk drawer is a factor of authentication.
Yeah, if you want to be super paranoid like me and generate all random passwords, but then instead of storing them in a password manager, you write them down in a book, I would consider that acceptable.
For the
Yeah.
person out there, though, I guess when you're using a password manager, technically you are having. There's a company that makes password managers, right? There are
Right, and
many
you're
different
trusting
companies.
them that they
Yeah.
got
It's like a
secure.
VPN.
But there are
something
open
else.
source alternatives where you can host it yourself if you're technical enough.
Yeah, but
Sure,
for
but
the
you're
you're
average
still
person,
relying
yeah.
on code that they wrote, and that
But
code
what
is
if it's
secure.
open source though?
The average person.
Is your average individually going to look
I
through
know,
source
I
code and
know.
verify,
or what's the
even
other
have
one?
the
Bitwarden.
intelligence to look through
Bitwarden.
source code and verify?
Usually,
that it
like
is
NordVPN
correct?
has its own now too.
No fucking way. Right?
Yeah, NordVPN's
I'm not even. I'm educated in this sphere, and I don't have the knowledge or experience to look through the source code of Bitwarden
Yeah, but
and
normally-
say yes, this is good. I'd have no clue.
Yeah, but
it
normally-
would take me years to figure that out.
But normally,
So you're gonna say, "Oh, it's open
but
source. So
normally-
you can verify it." No, I can't.
But normally,
normally it's not open source being a way to have the code be transparent. It's not that the end user should go and read the code and verify
Right.
themselves.
Sure, it's
that
that
it's good.
developers can
It's that-
verify.
it's that
it,
everyone
and
can
that
verify
everybody
it
can
together.
verify
It
together,
requires
sure.
it's like trustless. It means that my
Yes.
code is out in the open, and if there's something wrong with it, someone will call me
Yeah,
out
they'll
on my
know.
bullshit.
yeah.
Because there are people who care.
Yeah,
There
there
are,
are people
sure.
who will sift through your source code and make an issue or a pull request that says, "Hey, there's a vulnerability
There's
here.
a typo."
Fix it."
At some point, you've got to get big enough for that as well, though, right?
True,
Some
so-
small open source project, that's not going to happen.
That's not
Maybe
gonna be
you
a good
shouldn't
password
trust that.
manager.
Huge
And it's a good
project,
reason
then
to
it's
not
much more
randomly use a
likely to
project
happen.
you haven't seen anywhere else. you
Yeah,
know?
like we discussed in the last podcast. All right, so Kyle, your
So anyway,
NAS.
NAS.
Yes, the NAS.
My NAS. I'm building a NAS. What is a NAS?
A network
network attached storage.
It's
I knew
basically
that.
a
I knew
computer
that.
with a crap load of hard drives that you
Yes.
connect to from another computer.
Think of it as like
bunch of
I guess a
hard
work
drives on your
file
network.
server, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess a work file server is.
You store it on the project drive. Right?
In our
Oh,
so
man.
I'm gonna spoil a little bit. We already built this NAS, and there's a video coming soon on the channel.
Ooh, stay
Excited
tuned.
about it.
Yeah, what?
I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, yeah. So
it should
he
be interesting.
We set it up so it's running. Okay, no, I'm gonna let Kyle.
No,
talk
no, you
about
go.
it.
You go.
Well, I'm the one that set up all the software, so I guess I know all about the software. That's
Let's hear
running on
about
it.
the
Well, let me
software.
start with the hardware first, then we'll get to the software.
All
Okay,
right.
go
yeah.
ahead.
It's a physical computer, right? And I built myself a computer when I was in college. And this computer is a little old, but it has a relatively modernish graphics card on it. It's a
Okay, relatively modern-ish.
It's a
my ass.
It's a
This
1080.
is relatively modernish.
It is. It's actually one little generation above this guy.
Yeah.
You could say relatively modern-ish and be referring to a 750 Ti.
With today's graphics
Okay.
card stuff, I
Yeah.
would say so, because it's just
It's
really hard
accessible.
to get graphics cards right
Yeah.
now. But it's a I think maybe a 7th or 8th generation
It's a
i7.
six-
It is a 9th gen i5
9th gen i5.
9400.
Oh wait, you're right. Yeah, it's a sorry, I don't know why I was thinking 6400, but you're right. It's a 9400.
Because that's what I have.
Yep.
Yeah,
An i5
yeah,
Intel
that's what it
processor.
was.
It has a GTX 1080 Ti in it.
Ti. I'm sorry, NVIDIA. I'm gonna call
Hot
it Ti.
take.
The
So it's-
GTX 1080 Titanium.
Yep. So
I like
That
that
sound
more than
cooler
Ti.
than
Yeah,
Ti.
it really would.
I mean, the computer was great. It can do quite a lot, honestly. I now have a computer that can do more than it, which is I use as my daily driver. So this other computer I was using as a server computer, but for this project, we decided to make it turn that computer into a NAS. So I went out.
Now it's a storage computer.
A storage computer. So I went out and went to go buy a bunch of hard drives in order to put in this device. That way, these hard drives can be accessed, from the network with all the software Chandler was about to talk about. But then I had to decide, which hard drives to get, and it seems like there's two major companies. There's Seagate and there's Western Digital, and they're
Both good names.
Yep, and they're like the primary hard drive manufacturers. And so for anyone else who's currently building a NAS, if you're going with the highest tier storage option, which I try to do, I got 18 terabyte drives. That's what's the highest and available right now.
They just
think
shipped
there's
22
20s,
terabytes.
but
No, they
yeah.
shipped 22 terabyte hard drives this year.
Yep, that's cool. And
That's
they
a
did
lot.
have 20 terabyte drives, but I couldn't buy any 20 terabyte drives. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
They're
they're probably
all
being
out.
bought by all the data centers and
Yeah.
such. So,
Yep, that too.
so I was going to get Iron Wolf Pro drives from Seagate. They're kind of expensive, crazy expensive, They're like $700 a piece. And then,
Yeah, but that's also 18 terabytes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A single hard drive.
but then I went
But
to
yeah, it's 650, I think they were.
Yeah, and then I went to Western Digital though, and they also had 18 terabyte drives in their WD Red Pro series line, and they were only $400. That's like a crazy difference there for the same thing. But it did turn out that the
Exos.
the Iron Wolf Pros, the reason why they were so much more expensive is because they had like the data recovery service.
Yeah,
So if you
Iron,
lost all your data, you could pay Seagate to recover it.
the Iron Wolf Pros include 5 years of data recovery. I think that's included in the price, so I think that's free. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
though.
Western Digital
But
don't.
basically, that
they only come with a
additional-
year of warranty, and they
No,
will
they
recover.
come with 5 years, I think.
Is it
They're
5
designed
years?
to fail after
It's 5 years, but they don't have
5
the active
years and
recovery
a month.
thing that the
Yeah,
other ones
okay.
do.
Yeah, right. The Iron Wolves, I think you can ship them off to Seagate if they fail within 5 years, and they'll pull the date off.
Yep. So then I went out. I'm like, all right, $400. That's a great deal, So I bought these drives, $400 a piece. Bought quite a few of them. And then when they're on their way over the course of the week or two that they take the ship, I found another drive built by Seagate that I think I should have gone with instead, called the Exos drives. They're the enterprise version. They're also 18 terabytes, and they're way even cheaper. They're like $340 a piece.
On paper, they have better specs, but I've heard that if you want actual, properly reliable drives, you go WD anyway. I think that Seagate technically
See,
has
James will
higher
fight you on
failure
that.
rates.
James hates WD.
I
He
don't
will
know. I
always go
have
with
friends on
Seagate.
both sides of the
Yeah, me
equation,
too.
though.
I
It's
was about to
such
say the
a
same
hard
thing.
I
thing
always
to-
bought WD, although I think my current PC has a Seagate drive in it as well. I think it is both. I think I have a Seagate and a WD drive in my system now.
Hard drive or SSD?
Both hard drives. My SSD is made by Sobrent.
I see.
Severance, I don't know.
So
Yeah.
we took this PC up. Good.
I don't know. I don't recall what I was going to say. Something about fighting between different types of
Yeah.
hard drive manufacturers, and probably ultimately doesn't really matter.
Yeah, true. So
Each different person has a different
well,
experience.
it matters in terms of costs though. Like
Right,
mine were $400, that was good, but the $340 variant, that's
$325, I think they were, as
That's
low as I saw.
$60 per drive difference. Like that's a crazy amount of money. So it's like, do I send my drives back and wait for 2 weeks?
Yeah,
And then I read the thing, they have 30 days from when they receive them to give me my money back. So I wait 30 days from when I get it back. And I mean, probably not, but that's what it says on paper. And then I buy the new drives, and they take another 2 weeks to get here. So it's like we'll be delaying the NAS being built by
2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
Right.
And
or
let's just
you
say that-
send back the drives, and then you buy new ones. And
But here's the
then you have
problem.
other
Kyle
issues.
spent a lot of effing money on these drives.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was
Are you willing to say how much it was?
Yeah, I mean, I already said in the video, we bought 6 drives, $400 a piece. So you can do the math.
$2,400 in hard drives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of money in hard drives.
They got to get a whole
You know.
freight truck over to get it in.
Well, they actually
But on the other
sent them
hand,
in
it's like
one of
108 terabytes.
Yeah, but they actually sent them to Kyle in like one of those boxes that has like the drive slots in them with the foam and everything. And the reason why is because they expect you to be buying more than 6 in a bulk package.
That's fair.
Yep. I mean, they still sound to me, so that's good. So put them together, 108 terabytes, great amount. Except with how NASA's work, you generally have like parity with where there's different software
Well,
packages.
there's
Jen's
Unraid,
about to
there's
talk about.
TrueNAS, and you can also just use straight Linux if you want.
Yep. And but for that parity, generally you give up a drive in order to have it so that way if any of the drives fail, you can
Okay, this
regenerate
is how
that
Unraid
drive.
works.
in
This is
order-
not how other services work.
This is Unraid
This is specifically Unraid, how
Okay,
their
fair.
tech works.
There are other RAID formats, but
Well, normally when you think RAID, it's like 1-to-1, where one drive fails, okay, you have a backup. That's normally how
Yeah.
it works. Or they have it striped where like, if you
Yeah.
have 3 drives, one of them can fail or something like that.
yep.
And
There are just ways of redundancy.
yeah,
to
there's
recover
different
your
redundancy
data.
methods. Unraid it's usually, I think, 1 drive per like 4 or something like that.
Interesting.
I was under the impression it's one drive, period.
Maybe it is with 1 drive period can
That
fail.
seems so weird, but yeah.
Their parity
It's because
really,
of how the
really
parity
strange.
works.
Sure. I still
Yeah.
think, speaking of which, I still think we should have 2 parity disks.
We will once we upgrade.
Yeah.
I think it should be now. Because they're all from the same batch. So if one fails from that batch due to a manufacturing issue, the rest have a really
We can
high
discuss this after I
likelihood of
kind of
failing.
explain more about the software, though.
But yeah, go ahead and explain more about the software.
Are you done talking about hardware?
Well, long story short, we're not going to get the full 108 terabytes. We're going to get like 86-ish terabytes or something like that.
Unraid rounds it up to 90.
But
It
you get good
claims 90.
insurance on
How
those
do you-
drives if you
how
lose
do you-
any data.
That's true. How do you round up to 90?
I don't know. It just says 90 terabytes in the menu, even though I think it's
Okay.
89.6 or something like that.
Okay, so you're rounding up 0.4
Is
of a
it-
terabyte,
is it
which is still
tebabytes?
400 gigs.
I don't
Gigabytes?
know. It
Yeah.
depends on which
Yeah,
operating
is it
system you're reading it
tebabytes
in.
or...
Yeah.
I think
What's the difference
Unraid uses
between-
Windows format, but then all the Linux Linux VMs use terabytes.
Great question. What's the difference? Well, you
Actually,
see,
there technically is no difference.
there is
there
a
is a
difference.
difference.
It's
There
is a
exactly
difference. I'm gonna let Alex
24
talk
number
about
of bytes. So this is one of those ways that you can look at it as manufacturers want to have their way of screwing out the consumer. You can look at it as, oh, it's just convenient for the general public. We all know here on the Casual Coders podcast and friends that one kilobyte, how many bytes?
1024.
1024, because it's the
1,000.
nearest. It's the nearest power of 2 to 1,000, which is just how we like metric stuff. We like ways of condensing.
We like metric, but we also
power
like
two.
base 2.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but computers need the base 2. So of course we're all going to think in terms of 1 kilobyte, 1024 bytes. 1 megabyte, 1024 kilobytes, which is then whatever those are multiplied number of bytes. So when you cascade up to the gigabytes and the terabytes, the math gets a little bit iffy. And the manufacturers came up with this cute little way of using the metric system creatively to represent these power of 2 values, where now we have, I don't know why they chose this, kilobytes and kibibytes. I have no idea why they did that.
The really interesting thing is there's some, I don't know if it's an ISO standard or whatever, where capital KB, like capital K, capital B, as you see it in Windows, is actually the same as a kibibyte. It's also 1024, which is how Windows uses it.
Yeah, it
It's a
depends
standard.
too. I think
I
Long story
totally
short-
see it always as just drive manufacturers.
Marketing.
fucking
Long
with
story short-
marketing. Yeah.
One is 1024 and one is 1,000.
So yeah, what we use now is if we're using the metric prefixes, those kilo, mega, gigatera, those ones are going to be in metric format. They're going to be every 1,000. So there's 1,000 kilobytes in a megabyte, right? Instead of 1,024. But what that then means is you buy a 30 terabyte drive or whatever. What was it, 18? So you buy your 18 terabyte drive, and then suddenly Windows says it's like, oh, well, this is only 16.5 terabytes, because Windows is probably using
Tibabytes.
Well, it's using that ISO standard or whatever.
tebibytes.
I have to find
Yeah,
it.
it's IEC they call it. So
Yes,
it's
there
the
you go.
binary values, right? So
Yeah.
and it's even more confusing because typically the IEC values, they have an I in between the terms. So a kibibyte is a capital K, lowercase I, capital B, kibibyte, which represents 1,024 bytes.
This is
right?
how Linux will represent it too.
But
Windows
there's also
doesn't,
the
but Linux does.
JEDEC kilobyte, which is capital K, capital B, which is the same thing. But then the lowercase k, capital B, kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. Why do they make this so complicated? money. I don't know, so they can undersell you by however many bytes.
That is what it seems like, isn't it?
That's it, right? There's no reason for manufacturers to be like, well, technically we only know how to deal with 1,000
Yeah,
stuff.
we only know how to fit 1,000 bits in this disk when the base is 2.
I'm calling bull honky. You know why? Because every single one of those cylinders and every single one of those sectors, they're all powers of 2. The allocation unit, the smallest fraction of a space on the drive, is always going to be a power of 2. There's no reason for them to do this to us. They're doing it to screw us out of money.
If you look at drives from 10, and probably more than that, 20 years ago, they are proper ibibyte.
Well, yeah, because they couldn't afford, to go that many layers up. And,
right. No,
you had 2 megabytes. You knew it was 2 million. However many thousand.
It's exactly 2
Yeah, but now when we're getting to 18 terabytes, they can get away with that.
They can just say, don't worry about it. But then that cascades.
400 gigs or whatever it is, and it's like, oh well, sorry.
Well, we lost more than that though. We not only lost that in overhead, we also lost that in like.
Well, yeah, we lost another 18 terabytes in parity.
Right.
Yeah. So let's go over the software that's running on.
Let's hear about that software.
So we're running Unraid, which is a fancy operating system that gives you a bunch of fun features like a file server, and you can run virtual machines, and you can run Docker containers, and does all this fun stuff through a web GUI. So then you can connect to it on Windows, and it will just show up as like a normal Windows network drive. So you can just have it in the Windows File Explorer and just use it like a normal drive as if you had it plugged into your computer directly. It's really nice. Now, we had the issue of, okay, well, how do we make this so we can access it from outside of the network, but not have to worry about random people accessing our drives? Right. The solution, a VPN.
Nice.
So we're running WireGuard for our VPN, which I think is better than OpenVPN, but it's for open source license reasons.
It's free.
It's free. Well, it's more permissively licensed than OpenVPN.
Okay.
And it's more secure. Supposedly, I haven't tested it.
Yeah, man, you're gonna go dig into that open source software and try to figure out exactly how secure it is.
I've just read articles about it. Apparently, WireGuard is more secure because it's using a more modern encryption algorithm. Whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I cared about. Like, okay, it's more modern, it's more supported, and it's a little faster. Cool, we're gonna use that one.
More better.
Well, yeah, it's also faster because like OpenVPN, you had like quite a lot of latency. WireGuard, it's negligible latency. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so, like encryption latency or whatever.
Yeah. So normally, like when you did OpenVPN, you added like 50 milliseconds to your response time, and WireGuard only adds a couple.
You could totally game over that, man.
You could totally game over that, but you can game even more over WireGuard because it only adds a couple milliseconds of latency.
I was joking. 50 milliseconds of added latency.
Well, it depends on who you ask, because like my friends that had really crappy internet until last year.
Don't bring it up.
Like my one friend gamed competitive Counter-Strike on 200 ms of ping.
That's really painful. I've done that when playing with a friend in Europe, and it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
that was only like 150 milliseconds.
Unraid has all these fun features, so we can run certain applications in Docker containers. We can run virtual machines for Kyle's game servers because he still wants to host some Arc servers and stuff on it. And then also we were running a VM that's going to act as our video editing workstation, remote workstation. So say Alex wants to edit a video with us. We can just both remote in using Parsec.
They use me as an example because they know I can't do it on my own station.
Well, you will be able to if you want, but
yeah, no.
And then also we wanted the ability to connect to the NAS outside of it. So say for example, Ian, who is a Premiere guy, he doesn't know our normal editing software, which
I've tried to use it, and I truly
DaVinci Resolve.
Woo!
It's free.
It's so hard.
But he doesn't like
a learning
DaVinci.
curve like everything.
It's a learning curve that
just
is
like Premiere.
impossible.
I'm just the opposite of you. I think Premiere is impossible.
Oh, it's a piece of shit. I'll say that openly.
How many times does Premiere crash in an episode?
97 times.
Yeah,
We'll put the number on screen if I remember.
How many times are we at so far?
I've tried editing this one. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, we're generally a Resolve shop, but Ian prefers to use Premiere. So Ian can VPN into the NAS, and then he can download the footage directly to his system. So then we had the issue of, and this is going to get into some internet politics, the fact that all of us have Spectrum. And the problem with Spectrum is that the download speed is fine. I get 400 meg download. Kyle gets 400 meg download.
I get 200 meg download.
Yeah, Ian and Kyle, or not Ian.
Yeah, 4,
Ian
2,
and
4, 2.
Alex both get 200. Here's the problem.
10 up.
10 up, and I get 20 up. That's impossible to edit videos over. That's impossible.
It's so bad.
So we had to go find a friend who had gigabit symmetric internet so we could actually download the videos in a timely manner.
And upload them to YouTube in time.
And upload them to YouTube in time. Thank you,
well,
Larry.
Well, if I have to download stuff to run Premiere, that's going to be impossible anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, so thank you, Larry, for allowing us to borrow his apartment as a server host provider. So he just kind of lets it sit connected to his network and uses power for free
In his closet, right?
in his
In
closet.
his walk-in closet.
I
Yeah.
host my server with my 10 up speeds, and it's painful to try to
painful.
download anything off
You can
of it.
barely
It's
even
so
run a
bad.
Minecraft server on 10
Oh,
up.
man.
I run a Minecraft server on my 20 and it's fine, but I only ever have 2 people connecting to it at
Yeah.
once. So
I've
Yeah.
had 12 people
imagine
connected to
trying
mine.
to
It's pretty good.
Imagine trying to run a server for like 10 or 20 people,
well, I've ran.
Yeah,
I've
I've had
ran.
good
We've
success,
at
but-
one
or
point.
even a larger server.
I
large
ran.
server,
So I
like
want to
a
talk
video.
about. I'm what Reddit calls a home labber, where I like to have server equipment in my house. I like running my own servers. I like
Yeah.
running Linux stuff. It's fun. It's one of my hobbies. So one of the things I used to run is an insurgency server. Have you guys ever heard of that game before?
I've played
No.
Insurgency. It's great.
No,
Heard of
Insurgency.
it.
It's a source. The original Insurgency is source based, so it's the same engine as Half-Life 2.
Right.
And it's really, it's like a really hardcore tactical shooter, but it had community server support. So I thought it would be fun to run my own community server. So I did, and you could have up to 32 players on a community server. Well, one day I decided to put up the community server and make it public, so anyone could join it.
Uh-oh. Yeah, where's this going?
At one point, I had the server full on my network, and at the time I had 100 meg down and 10 up,
Wow.
and it was stable.
That's pretty good.
Now, the average ping of the users were complaining that their ping was a little high, but everyone said it was playable.
It was in seconds?
It was, the ping on average was about 90 milliseconds a person when they were in.
terrible.
Well, it was,
It
they were-
is depending on the game, right? If you're playing an FPS game,
Which
I,
it is
I could
really
see
bad.
that there's a thing, but
Yeah.
for other random games, I think it's
Well, it
it's
also,
fine.
I was running it at a lower hertz rate. So Insurgency allowed you to set the refresh rate of the server. And normally you have it set to 60 is the standard, because that's what most people's game is running at. You can increase that up to 100. I think you could increase it as high as you wanted if your CPU
CSGO
would allow it.
128 tick servers when?
Gamer
Yeah.
tiers, right?
Yeah, and you could go all the way up to as high as you
tiers.
wanted. I was running it at like 30 because it was on a crappy old CPU on a Linux machine I had laying around.
Very
and apparently,
nice.
32 players, 30 hertz, were running an old crappy bulldozer-based AMD processor. And it ran fine. However, like I said, everyone is complaining about ping, whatever. But it worked. And I was like impressed by it. But that doesn't mean, Spectrum, that it is acceptable to have 10 megabit upload when I have to upload terabytes of video for work. That's not acceptable,
You
okay?
have to upload terabytes of video.
I have at one point, yes, because of
Holy
the AI.
shit.
Because of the AI we're developing. I had to upload a bunch of videos to an AWS data center.
Wow, that is.
And it took
lot.
forever.
I just don't think we're there yet with the infrastructure. I mean, if I had fiber, I don't think it would be that hard to get that symmetric gigabit kind of
Dude, I would be happy with
It
symmetric
depends on your
100 meg.
provider.
They told me that copper is just limited to, well, they said 200, and I already know they're lying if you guys are getting 400 on copper, so.
I can get up to
so
1,000 on copper,
So
apparently.
how copper internet
Download,
works.
but not upload.
It
Upload, it'll
uses-
go up to
Fair
like 35 or
So
something.
I wonder how their
So how it
distribution
works
is.
is called DOCSIS. I don't remember what it stands for, but I know the C is cable.
Docs.
I know the C is cable. But basically, it's a standard that they use for internet over copper line.
Okay.
And currently, we're on DOCSIS 3.1, I believe. 3.1, you are
Does the I
each...
stand for internet?
I think so,
You
yeah.
can just look it up, right?
Just look it up, yeah. But DOCSIS standard, it allows for up to 6-ish gigabits in a neighborhood down, and then like 1 gigabit up in a neighborhood or something.
Oh, dude, I know what you're talking about. You're
Yeah.
talking about data over cable service interface specifications.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
I remember that.
DOCSIS 4.0 is going to be, I think they said that the specification, which is supposed to be rolling out sometime this year, it's supposed to be more like, say I get a gig down, I should get about 250 up.
Oh, no, this says that DOCSIS 3.1 is capable of 10 gigabits per second down and 1 gigabit per
For a
second
neighborhood,
up.
though. That's shared
But
across your entire neighborhood.
Most widespread standard is 3.0, which is capable of 32 download channels at one time and over 1 gigabit per second download speeds.
Yeah, so that's
Interesting.
That's 3.1 is, but they said cable companies are behind. They're inherently behind. So odds are when 4.0 comes out, they're probably going to start pushing 3.1 all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing, Spectrum. If you could just give me gigabit down and 250 up for $100 a month, I would be happy for
I'd
the next
take it.
decade.
I'd
like,
take it.
I probably wouldn't complain for a long time. However, as of today, 400 meg and 20 up is not acceptable. It is too slow.
If you're
I need
just
Oh, that must be
consuming content, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
No, yeah, the average consumer, it's fine. I am not the average consumer. I am a
No,
pro.
you're not.
I am a prosumer. I work from home, and I have a bunch of hobbies that eat bandwidth for breakfast. So I could, and I like to stream in my free time. So like,
People in Australia are like Argentina hate you right now.
I know.
They're like,
I know,
it's not enough.
Five,
They're like,
five or whatever.
gigabit.
Well, no, honestly, I'm
spoiled.
Yeah, we are
a
spoiled.
little bit.
We're spoiled, but we're not at the same time.
Yeah,
because-
we use the space that we have, right?
Man,
So-
I miss living on university campus because I had
Yeah, oh my
symmetric
God.
gigabit.
Oh,
Damn,
God.
bro.
Yeah, the university.
You're paying
is-
for it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, only 5,000 a year.
No, 5,000 a semester.
Yeah.
Sorry, scratch that. 6,000 or 7,000.
And you couldn't stay there for the whole year even if you wanted to.
Oh no.
No, you could not.
You had to pay extra to stay over the summer,
Oh,
right?
it was damn.
It was
expensive.
a lot, and it wasn't,
wasn't
the whole
worth it.
summer either.
You would
You
be,
were
like,
only
locked
allowed to
down.
stay for like an extra week or two.
Yeah,
and
it
you
was
had to
not
pay a
convenient.
ridiculous amount of money.
None of
per
the
day.
dining options were open, and that's part of living on campus is having food within walking distance.
Yeah,
So
I'm
You're
glad
not
you
allowed to have
never
a kitchen
listened
in
to
your
it's awful.
door.
Yeah, you can't have a damn toaster or a coffee pot.
this. And in Akron,
Yeah,
you're gonna
right.
get stabbed trying to go to the bar to get food.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, you don't want to.
I mean, yeah, depending on which dorm you would have lived in Akron, just constant smoke alarms and fire alarms all the
Yeah,
time.
right.
Yeah,
every
and my
time
parents wonder why I
anyway.
didn't live on campus. Like that's
Don't.
why.
It was horrible when
it
I
was so
did.
great
The
living
dorm
off
room that I
campus.
lived, or the residence hall that I lived in, it was like 2 smoke alarms, 2 or 3 fire alarms a week.
Yeah,
I
we
know
hear about 'em
in
all the
one
time.
night there were 3 in a night, and another student told me that they had 5 in one night at one point.
Well, I know the reason why my parents were pushing for me to go move into a dorm is because they just wanted me out of the damn house. That was
I mean,
literally
that's
it.
totally
that's the only
understandable.
Yeah,
that's acceptable and like I almost
I
expected.
mean, they should have just pushed you into an apartment or something, though, if
You
they
had to
wanted.
live
I didn't have the
campus.
fucking money for either.
No, for
The apartment still would have been cheaper.
for your first year, you had to live on campus without special consideration.
No, the special
That's true.
consideration is if you live in the county or a bordering county, which I lived in a bordering county. I didn't have to.
Oh, that's sweet of them.
Yeah, I didn't have to live. I didn't have to live on campus my
Although
first year.
I'm sure all those rules are out the
Which
window
they
now.
changed it. It's 2
Yeah.
years now.
Yeah.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, it's changed 2 years now.
Wait, as in you have to stay on campus for 2 years?
You have to stay on campus for 2 years unless you live in a bordering county or you get special permission.
Well, they can go fuck themselves.
To say, for example, if you can prove, I think one of the special permissions is if you can prove that you have a car and you sign an agreement saying you're willing to drive an hour to school every day, you're allowed to live off campus. So say
can
you live
prove
in,
you have a car.
say you live in campus.
Here's a picture.
Say you live in, well, get a parking pass, I guess.
I know, but, like,
Say
what a
you live
stupid
in
requirement.
Cleveland, you can get special permission to drive to school every day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Hey, man, with my self-driving car, I just smack her on the
Yeah,
highway
come on.
and we're good.
Here's my controller. This is for my car.
If you lived in Canton, you didn't even need special permission because it's in a bordering county.
Yeah.
Playing a video games, driving my car with the PS4 controller, no
Yeah,
problem.
there you go.
Yeah.
This
but
is
anyway,
perfectly
back to the
legal.
NAS. I don't know how
the
we.
NAS.
Yeah. So the NAS.
Yes.
Yeah, so we were complaining about internet speeds, and the question then becomes, okay, if there's a problem with your internet, then why have the NAS? And I think one of the answers is that it allows us to have our footage all in like one place.
Right.
Like right now we
We
have
have so much footage.
We have so
Dude,
much
we've
footage,
only
so
filmed like
many
3 videos and we
computers.
already have like 10 or 15 terabytes of information.
Yeah, I mean,
each
it's not just
podcast
the-
is 75 gigs.
yeah, there's a good example, you know, and we've done quite a few of these
Done
podcasts.
a number
for
of these
example.
now.
Yeah, the one I recorded, it was 25 gigs and it was at low quality.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a horrible bit rate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So
Yeah, so then that's the other thing too is that, like I said, ideally, for the most part, we're going to be editing on the same network as Larry
Right.
because we're going to be editing over remote, like parsec.
So you're living like Larry?
Living like Larry, yeah. So
Okay.
you can
sir.
either,
That was for Quinn.
you can either do that, or DaVinci also supports you having a server that you remote connect to as well. So we can do that as well if you
I
want,
sort
do
of
want to
wonder
use
if
your
you
own
could do
system.
something like that with Premiere.
There has to be a solution, right? Like
Yeah, you
if
just
DaVinci
throw
does
there
it,
is, that would be
$1,000
very, very
in the
nice.
trash and then a button appears.
Yeah, you shred $1,000 and then
You
the
send
button
a video to
appears.
Adobe.
we can for sure do the remote editing with Premiere though, so we can set that up too if you desire.
All right,
yeah,
we'll
so
we'll
anyway,
figure it
there's
out.
solutions that we can make our not actually that slow internet feel faster.
Yes.
So yeah, but
Just by
anyway.
using faster internet in a different location.
Yeah, because Larry has symmetric gigabits, so we're able to take advantage of that. Which also means that if, say, for example, I want to say we're developing a program and I need to host an API, I can host it on the NAS. And realistically, it's not a very CPU or even network intense API, but it's going to be that much faster being hosted on a gigabit connection. So obviously, I'm going to want to do that. Like for
Man,
example,
you care
I
about
think-
those 3 milliseconds of extra ping?
Hell
Yes.
yeah! I'm gonna have a MongoDB server that like I can connect to that much faster because it's on Larry's gigabit internet.
Yeah, if we're splitting hairs, yes.
Yeah, we're literally splitting hairs, man.
Well, yeah, I host my own database servers at my house, and it's acceptable outside
Yeah.
of the network. But it's still nice to have the ability to connect to them quicker.
It is funny for me when like my prompt for my server takes like a couple seconds to come up. I'm just like, oh my god, this is what my life is. But it's so convenient to have.
Do you still host your website at your house?
Yes.
Yes.
And I have for over 10 years
Very nice.
Why haven't you
you.
considered like hosting it offsite in like a VPS? They're like $5 a month.
because I don't know how or why I should do that.
I can teach you how to do that.
So maybe that'll be a fun project, but right now I don't have to change anything
But
because I'm the only one who
but
uses
here's
it.
the thing. The advantage of a VPS is that, yeah, you only get like 1 CPU core and a gig of RAM, but realistically, for your static website, you don't need much more.
I
Or
have
could
a
you
lot
just
of
use the
services
free
on
whatever
this,
they
so-
are? Is
Oh,
it
Oracle, yeah,
they're
Oracle
free
gives you
Oracle
free
servers.
ones.
All right, can I run SMTP on it?
Correct.
Can I run Mosquito MQTT on it?
Yes.
Can I run all my random data websites on
Yup,
it?
Yes.
same. It's
All
all
right,
good,
cool.
Kyle.
All right, I don't
You
care.
can
if
run
I
all of
do
that
it.
stuff, and Oracle gives them away for free for developers, and it's like unlimited too. Yeah, and then you get like 200 gigabytes of SSD storage on
How
it.
many
bigger
ARM
than
cores were they giving
You
out?
get
They were
4
giving-
ARM cores and 24 gigabytes of RAM.
That's
if,
what it was,
If
just
your
a ton
system
of
can run on
RAM.
ARM, so
Yeah.
if it'll run on a Pi, it'll run on Oracle. Or you can get up to two Ryzen cores and 4 Ryzen threads with, I think, 2 gigs of RAM though, so
What?
you don't get that much RAM.
How much does this cost
0
Free.
for what do you mean, for Oracle or for us?
for all of this?
For Oracle, they're giving away for free.
That way you learn their platform, and then
That way you
when
learn their
do-
platform, and when you do want to spend money, like, and
Yeah.
do
Then
it,
you
you know
just
their
spend
platform.
What
on
if I
their
don't
platform,
respect Oracle as a company?
Well, then I recommend Linode or Vultr because they're cheap and
okay.
they're small.
All right, he's
But-
still gonna sell me on this. It's just not gonna be Oracle.
Linode
He's just gonna
and
give you 300 different
Linode,
companies
so
you could
Linode
use. Yeah.
will give you $100 in credit over the course of 3 months.
Oracle is like the Adobe of whatever it is
infrastructure.
Oracle does.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure you
Java
could say
and
that
other
for just
stuff.
about any company, though.
So Linode,
Yeah, sure.
like Linode and Vultr are both like startups that basically are just trying to clone AWS but be cheaper and not AWS,
You know, being not AWS is a selling point for a lot of people.
including you, right?
Yeah, I'd be like, cool.
all right, well, fair
And
enough.
they're cheap. It's like $5 a month for a server.
Jeff Bingus doesn't need to know where all my files are.
Yeah, and then Linode has other services. Like they're trying to basically replicate Amazon Stack, but do it a little cheaper and do it a little better.
Well, how much of Amazon Stack though? Because I mean, I've seen the amount of things.
Right
that
now they're
Amazon does.
they're doing all the core essential stuff. So
Their
they have-
dashboard is like
they-
2 pages. If
I
you
hate
scroll.
their dashboard. They're just so confusing. I use
so
AWS
much.
for work, and it's confusing as
Yeah.
hell. So they're doing S3. So they're doing object
Okay.
storage. They're doing the servers, the virtual servers you can rent.
What was the?
They're gonna try to do Lambda eventually.
Oh yeah, dude. There's so many
Elastic
services.
Beanstalk.
I love Lambda. That's the
Yeah.
one Amazon service that I will stand by. I think Lambda's great, but I want
Elastic
EC2.
they called it. Yeah, EC2.
EC2 is what Linode. Linode calls them Linodes because they're Linux nodes.
head. I used it at work for like a little bit, and that's when I realized just how much that Amazon has
Dude, we
snatched up
use-
and capitalized
We
on.
use so much Amazon at my current job, and
They
I'm
had-
hoping that with the new company that me and Steven are trying to form, we try to avoid using Amazon as much as possible.
It's great for the people who want all of it in one
well, that's why
dashboard.
Russell
What's
pushed
the
me
con
to
of
use
using
AWS
Amazon, though?
for the one
What's
company.
the con of using Amazon?
Centralization.
Yeah, I guess it's just like
Outside of centralization, what is the con of using Amazon?
It's complicated
Price?
as hell.
It's really
It
just-
is so
yeah,
complicated.
I will
dude.
say it was very difficult. To get
very
used to.
sharp, steep learning curve.
I mean, I just had to work with the EC2, and I was like, what's my IP address? 'Cause, like, there was just so much there, and there were pages and pages of all these tools that I guess, like, we get. But yeah, I didn't understand. Yeah, they give you, like, credits. They give you CPU credits, and you, like, get a stock of them every month, and they, like, recharge. But if you overspend, then you gotta... It's very complicated. I had to have a dashboard of metrics of just, like, how much money we owed Amazon at any given month.
Needed an entire college class to figure that out.
Honestly,
They
you
do.
probably would. Yeah.
They sell. Stark State offers one. They offer a college class where all you do is go over how to use different AWS
And-
services and infrastructure.
Thanks.
That's
hate it.
how much there is.
The one thing that's kind of funny though is that you're saying like Amazon is centralization, which is totally true. So let's go to a different company. The hilarious thing is that other companies that you go to probably use AWS servers.
Linode, a lot of these companies like Linode and Vultr don't. They do host their own data centers. And I found out, the first podcast I talked about Cloudflare. I'm going to talk about this now.
Cloudflare.
I was wrong. I'm going to say I was wrong.
Shannon was wrong.
Errata, guys. Administer a correction.
Cloudflare, well, they used to buy out sections of Amazon, Google, and Azure data center. They don't anymore. They
Good.
only host their own data centers around the United States and around the world.
Round of applause for Cloudflare.
And the reason why they're able to make this new Cloudflare R2 object storage so cheap is not because they're doing it a different way. Apparently, they are one-to-one replicating Amazon S3. Amazon just has stupid fucking profit margins on S3 to the point where the CEO of Cloudflare went, why the fuck do they do that?
Because they don't have competitors.
They don't have competitors.
They can
So
afford it.
Cloudflare said, you know what? We're going to make this so cheap that we're almost losing money, so we get people from Amazon to come to our service.
Something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But it's a promo price, and it changes after a year.
It
right?
probably will change eventually, but
That's
here's
how they
the
get
thing.
you.
There's no egress cost. They don't charge you for uploads and downloads. They only charge you for what is stored on their servers.
Interesting. That's very nice.
Yeah. So honestly,
Yeah, imagine if eventually, like our ISPs, right now we just pay per month for this amount. Imagine if they charge you on a per input output.
I hate it. Dude, when I look at
that would be so
this,
horrible.
This is something that opened my eyes to when I
I mean,
had
at what point
Rain
does it
Meter.
become $50 a gigabyte?
Well,
just
that's right.
Like Verizon
I had a
or
Rain
whatever?
Meter tool on my desktop. Rain Meter desktop customization, great. Everyone loves it. That
Wallpaper
showed
engine
not only your
way
current
usurped
upload
it.
and download on your computer, your speeds, but your like average, your total from like the week or the month. And when I was at Akron, I think I had like almost 500 gigabytes just after, I don't know, a couple months of just bandwidth. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, if they charged me for this, I'd be broke. Like, even if it was $1 a gigabyte, I'd be like, I couldn't afford that.
I used to live with, my dad used to live in, when I say I live in the country, but I still have Spectrum. I'm still able to get cable internet. My dad lives so far in the country that Spectrum and AT&T didn't offer service where we were living.
Didn't
And-
they offer a service, but they required to like spend $1 billion to
So this
dig a
first
trench?
house, they offered
or am I
service,
thinking
but they
something
had to tear up the road to run a line to our house.
Yeah, right. $30 a month for the service. We do have to install everything up to the rest of your house. You know,
Yep.
They were trying to
that's-
charge my dad $10,000.
Yeah, there it
Yeah.
is.
Which is, well, this is what they charge. This isn't the current house he lives at, Ian. This is the house he used to live at.
Oh.
The current house he lives at, they wouldn't even quote him. They said, yeah, this is going to cost well over $20,000. We're not going to pay for this.
Oh.
So
They have to tear up the road,
that's-
shut down
which
the
I'm
road.
gonna, after I'm done talking about this, I want to talk about my dad's solution, which is going to be a casual coders project.
All right.
So, but what
Elon
happened?
Musk satellite link.
So, but we had this. Well, we had satellite internet. We had HughesNet, which was the
HughesNet.
premier satellite internet at the time.
Use.
We had a monthly
heard of it.
limit of 50 gigabytes.
Yeah, that's not.
So how it worked was you did get, so technically you got 100 gigabytes, but you got 50 gigabytes for the peak 12 hours of the day, and you got 50 gigabytes for the second peak 12 hours of the day.
I don't like it.
Yeah, you got 50 gigabytes per 12-hour period, and they reset at the end of every month.
Yeah, that's
that's
not
nice.
tolerable.
Yeah, so when I wanted to go download a video game, my parent...
Wait till after dinner.
No, not after dinner.
Right.
It was 3 a.m. to, I think,
Oh.
7 a.m. was
Oh,
one
you
of the
say it's
50
all hours.
gigabyte slots.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I had to get up at 3 a.m. to update my Windows PC. I had to get up at 3 a.m. to download Skyrim.
sad.
And here's the thing. It wasn't, and because it was satellite internet and it used a geostationary satellite, meaning that it took 1 second for my internet connection to reach the satellite and then another second for it to come back down to Earth, meaning my minimum ping was 2,000 milliseconds.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
No
that's-
issues with that at all.
Move
You
your
can
mouse to the
totally
right in
game on-
Minecraft. Your guy doesn't move 1, 2.
Yeah, bro, you want to play Counter
You're
Strike?
moving
You
too
got
fast.
this. Yeah.
So I couldn't play any multiplayer games at all.
Yeah.
I could talk on Skype. Skype worked just with a little bit of a delay.
With a lot of delay.
Yeah, with a lot of delay. And like all these other services, this was before Discord was popular. So
I mean,
could,
you'd have the
Or possibly
same
even
ping
existed
on
then, yeah.
Discord anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
there was
either
no
way,
difference.
like I couldn't do. I basically I spent all my time at my dad's programming, which I guess was pretty good for me now.
Yeah.
But still,
Well,
it
how
was
much money do you really make off programming, though? I mean, it
Not
certainly
yet.
helped you with your degree.
Not
but you're
yet.
the
I
startup
will
guy
make-
who
I will
makes
make plenty of
$0
money.
off of your 9
Help him pass the
startups.
class,
so.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll help me pass classes. But anyway, so going back to the other conversation I was going to talk about where my dad's having issues getting his internet. So last time I went to my dad's, he basically was telling me that, okay, hey, Spectrum came to our house and we asked them about it. And they came to the house up front. The house up front already has Spectrum because he has 2 houses on his property. The house up front already has Spectrum.
Huh.
And then they went to the second address on his property. They went all the way back to the back of the property where my dad's house was. The guy got to the back of the house, like the guy drove back, and he just got out of it. He didn't even get out of his truck. He just rolled his windows down and said, yeah, this is going to cost well over $20,000, and I don't even think my boss will approve it. So you guys are going to have to go sign up for Starlink or something.
Well,
That's
at least
crazy.
he's honest.
Yeah, at least he's honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy just turned right around and left.
Easy
I sort
job.
of wonder how difficult would it be to just yourself do the cable drop?
It wouldn't be difficult, but I have a better solution.
It'd be.
I mean, yeah, sure.
and this is
but-
my
Do
better
it,
solution.
What, under the road?
to just make the cable drop. All you got to
Get
do is
it all the way
connect up
to
to the
the road.
box.
So yeah,
and then
these
route
two
your
have
own
both been to my
cable, I
dad's house.
suppose.
They know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What, did you have like 500 feet you had to run a cable?
You're funny.
It was almost half
Half
a
a
mile.
All right, so like 2,500 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, only 500
A
feet.
lot of digging.
Yeah. So my solution was Linus Tech Tips did a video where he used a Ubiquiti air fiber kit to beam internet over a lake. He beamed it 3 miles.
It
was
3 miles.
3 miles. He beamed internet connection. It was gigabit connection, and he said the latency was about 40 milliseconds,
Which is really respectable.
which is respectable for doing that. So my dad and his wife want to buy one of these air fiber kits, and they want us to do a YouTube video where we go and install it for them.
Why aren't they closer to the road?
Just the house.
Why aren't they closer to the
Dude,
road?
the house is the most privacy I've ever seen at a house. Like,
Okay.
it was really cool. I
Care
actually
about your
quite-
privacy question.
Well, remember when we were talking about privacy versus convenience? That trade-off? I think this is one of those.
my dad and his wife really value their privacy, so they wanted a house that was a half a mile off the road.
Fair enough.
But anyway, what the problem is that this air fiber uses a signal that's very sensitive to obstructions.
Yeah.
So they have a grain silo up by the house at the front of the road. So what they want us to do
Just put it on it.
on the top of the
Nice.
grain silo and then beam the internet over the field all the way to my parents' house.
I'm gonna have to borrow my brother's climbing kit for that. We're gonna have to like rig up ropes and a whole bunch of other
Yeah.
stuff to climb to the top of the grain
Apparently, Dad
silo.
did
Part
say
two,
that there
Ian
is
fell this time.
How's his insurance on that property?
his insurance. That property. It's technically a business, so he actually has probably really good insurance on that property.
Good. Well, if anyone dies, they'll get a good
Ian
payout.
fell off a grain silo. Podcast number, I don't know what. Yeah. Oh God.
All right, no, but apparently there is rigging inside of the grain silo to get to the top of the roof.
Good,
Oh, nice.
But anyway, so
I know there are people, by the way, going back to like paying for the amount that you get instead of your speed.
yeah.
If you get one of those like data plans, but for your house, it's a thing that you can get through
I
like,
really hate it.
Verizon or whatever
I
else.
hate
But
it.
for some people, they literally can't. They can.
Yeah, you
they
can't
see
get
the cell
anything
tower,
else.
but they can't
Yeah,
get anything
right.
else. So
yeah,
that's the only option.
Verizon,
yeah.
$50 a gigabyte. You used 500 gigabytes that month. Enjoy your $25,000 bill.
Yep.
So what my dad
Yeah.
said he's going to do is he's going to buy Spectrum Gig for his tenant's house, and he's going to say, you guys are going to share an internet connection with us.
Huh.
And that's it. And he's just going to pay for gigabit for that house. And whoever lives in that house just kind of shares an internet connection with him.
A whole bunch of us just bust through the door to that house carrying like big
A bunch of
lights and
networking
camera-
equipment. Like,
We're here.
Cameras. All right, so we're filming a new Casual Coders video. You're gonna have to move off the couch
What's
for a
up,
second.
gamers?
We're gonna
what's
set
up,
these
gamers?
cameras-
Get out.
Yeah.
We have to give them 24 hours notice before we do that, by the way. So, but anyway, yeah, it's something we might be doing soon. I'm actually going to talk to my dad about it when I
Sounds
go to
like
his
a
house
funny
tomorrow.
project.
You want to join? You want to help?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds fun.
You're gonna hire me on what do I get? $10.
$0 an hour? Hell yeah, dude.
Gold star, pat on the back.
My dad says he'll pay for food for us for installing
Okay.
it.
Does he need any like fire alarms or anything?
No, but anyway,
Oh,
so we're
man.
gonna end up. We'll do that. We're gonna do that as a project video. I think it'd be a really cool project video to do. And
Don't make commitments, Chandler. We
Well,
hope to do it.
we
as a
hope to do it,
project
yeah.
video.
We hope-
to
potentially hopeful.
making a.
I think it'd be a cool project video just to do and like try out. I think it's a cool piece of equipment.
I mean, yeah,
Try it
sure.
out.
Linus has already done it, but you know, it's
If
our own
someone
spin
else
on
is
it.
paying
Our own
for it, yeah,
retarded
play with
spin on it. Hopefully, we don't drop it. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Well,
And all that footage will go on my NAS.
yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, but my dad's wife is a programmer, so like she kind of needs internet. Currently, they actually do have a DSL connection that the previous owner paid
DSL.
to
Wow.
the
man.
house. It's 25
Haven't heard
megabit
that in a
down
while.
and 4 megabit up.
I mean, that's better than I was expecting.
It's usable.
It's
but
usable,
She
it's
says
not
that
great.
Git commits take way too long.
How big are her Git commits?
Big. It's a corporation. She works for enterprise.
Oh, all right.
So these
fair
are like
enough.
code bases that are absolutely massive.
Have to use GitHub like large file.
Yeah, large file system.
Hold on, let me
LFS.
7-zip this file using ultra compression first, and then.
But then
At
the
least
Git repo won't work. Like you can't see.
At least she's not working for. At least she's not using SVN,
Oh,
which
God.
requires a persistent network connection.
Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah, SVN
Yeah.
sucks.
I remember using SVN in school.
I don't know why they made us use that. Nobody uses it
'Cause-
anymore. It's all Git.
Because
they
Because
have to
Akron's
learn how to
computer
use
science
Git.
department
Yeah,
is
they
15
haven't
years
learned it.
behind.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Then my one professor like forced us to use it. He's like, no, nobody uses SVN. I don't know why they're making you learn this. And then they refused to let us use it.
Yeah, because he's the
Yeah,
he's
well.
the person who actually has some sense in him. Out of all the
Yeah.
other
He
professors.
does have sense in him. He's a bit of a jerk, but he does have sense in him.
He does in terms of
Hey, that's
Technology
okay. The
stacks.
entire Akron computer science department doesn't have any sense to it.
On the bright
anyway.
side,
You're
fired
not
the
allowed to
teacher
use an
that-
IDE. You want to take a test? Not allowed to test run your code.
Dude, they let me-
Why would you ever do that on your job? It's totally not like I write 1 line of code, run it, make sure it works. Write 2 more lines, run it, make sure it works.
That's what the
Write
unit
5 more
tests are
lines,
for,
make
right?
Sure it works.
There are some exams that I had to write the
was
code
so
by
dumb.
hand with pencil and paper.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's sad.
my
They
computer
still do
systems
that.
exam where I had to write assembly from memory by hand.
Yeah.
Good old
was
Willis
painful.
would always do that on his
Oh.
questions on his tests. He'd be like, "Oh,
I
this
love
question
Willis,
is
though.
write the entire routine in pencil," and I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I
When
don't
you
have
realize you
syntax
need-
highlighting.
When you realize you know like another line, you can't just like go and hit enter on your piece of paper. You have to like erase all of it and like.
Oh man, it was awful.
On the bright side, like I don't know, I really liked Willis. I think he was a great teacher.
Oh, I thought he was great, and he loved me because I was the only one who stayed awake in his class.
His voice did put me to sleep.
Yeah, he
once.
would definitely. He was really good at.
He knows that- he knows how his voice
trailing
is, though.
off
That's why
when he would talk, and then he would just kind of start looking.
But
up
here's the
at
thing: all of the
ceiling.
lectures I did him online, and he would speed up all of his videos and increase the volume, so that way that
You know,
wouldn't
good for him.
happen.
Yeah,
Oh,
good for him
man.
for at least
He knew,
recognizing.
he was self-aware.
He was
like,
aware of his
that's
weaknesses,
funny.
and he was able to appropriately compensate.
using
Yeah,
digital
remember-
technology.
Yeah, that's
and then
good.
when I had an actual call with him, I realized why he sped up his videos.
Yeah.
But he's a great professor and he's a really nice guy.
My old landlord was always like that. I love the guy. He was a great guy to hang out with. He was always helpful whenever we needed anything. But my God, I could not understand him over the phone because we had a joke that anytime he wanted to call us, we'd be like, "Hey, I was like, what? What are you even saying anything?" Like half the time I had no idea what he was saying, so I would just say okay and hope it wasn't a question, and then he would finally hang up. But
Wow.
it made it hard to have conversations. So it's
I had
good.
a professor that was kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
And one day he decided, he's like, you know what? I'll do something about this. But instead of like trying to speak louder, he like literally went out and bought a microphone that you could like put right next to his mouth and then put speakers in the classroom. So that way when he
I've seen that in. I
talks
feel like I
very
recall seeing
shortly.
that way back in like high school or middle school.
Oh,
at one
Utah
point.
did that. Did anyone ever have Utah?
That's
What?
right. Yes.
You're talking about Utah?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh
don't
man,
know.
she was my favorite physics professor ever. I'm sad she doesn't teach anymore, but she was it was hard to hear in a big lecture hall, so she would always get this microphone and hook it up to the system.
Oh,
but the
man.
problem was that she would stand right in front of the speakers, so it would always squeal so loudly because of the acoustic
Yeah, the
feedback.
interference, yeah.
It was
Oh,
terrible.
my God.
So yeah, maybe she could have just spoken up a little bit.
Yeah,
Alright,
hey
yep.
Chandler, remember when we had to take C++ exams where we were only allowed to use Windows Notepad? Notepad++ was considered cheating.
Oh, dude, they let me use Notepad++.
I don't
Really?
think we were
Oh,
allowed.
yeah.
That was
That's
considered
syntax highlighting.
was cheating.
You know, yeah.
Well,
To be
Not
fair,
allowed
that
to use
professor
VS
got
Code.
fired.
Oh,
so-
yeah, you're right. They got let go. Yeah.
totally showed up in the microphone. Oh gosh.
Yeah, we'll just censor that one out.
Thank you,
Just
Ian, for that
remember
Windows noise.
Me, censor that one out.
I won't. Yeah, I won't. I don't want to say her name. But
We don't
want
want to say her name.
But I am going to say this. She got. So,
Yeah, on a roll, baby.
Poor Ian.
it's everyone else's wrong.
Nope, it's fine. You're forcing me
Anyway,
to do
so
it.
you guys
hey.
put there's like
It's my
3
life
topics
now.
on the list that I want to talk about.
Let's
so
hear.
many.
We have-
First one
yes.
is, and this is going to be more for you guys because you guys are more into the microcontroller space, but I do a little bit of microcontroller electronics.
Oh, can we put my fun meme up?
What is
on
your
screen?
favorite
You're the editor.
dev board? But I'm going to admit specific dev
Okay.
board and or microcontroller.
Anything else, or is it just in general?
Just in general, like what do you use the most for
Okay.
like personal
Did you
projects,
see-
not for
did you
work,
see my
personal
good meme?
projects?
Well, since
I
I'm
saw
paying
it's good
attention,
meme.
I'll
This
do
is a good meme.
my,
You should
my
put up
own
this meme.
take on this. I personally love the accessibility of the Arduino. They are dirt cheap. Did I see this already? Yeah, I love that.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
So the Arduino Nano is the one with like 16 pins. Whatever.
Yeah.
Is it the one
the
that's like
Nano.
shaped like a stick of gum? It's like this
Yeah,
big and.
if you get scammed, you can get it for less than $10. I mean, you can buy them for dirt cheap. I think it costs less
I got
than
one
$1
for
to
$1.
manufacture,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
know they sell them. The
it
Chinese
costs more to
knockoffs
ship
are-
it to you than
Yes,
it's more
that's
to
exactly
sell.
right.
Yeah.
So that's why you always gotta buy them in packs of 10 or
Right,
something.
right, exactly. And we, I don't remember how many we used for our like development before they were like, oh, you can't use this. We did use some for development for our senior design project, but we did use a different processor architecture because we had to. But I think
Were you guys forced to use picks?
we actually were forced to use anything other than
Arduino.
yeah, like
Why
one of
can't
those.
you
And
just
or
use
Raspberry Pi.
wait? Why can't you just use the Arduino processor and then just not use the Arduino library? You can just write it in NPM.
because they didn't want people to use that. And I asked Greg, I even told him, I was like, listen, why are you making this restriction? Like, I can write in C on this. I could write in C in a different architecture. It doesn't make a difference. And he's like, yeah, well, you're not allowed to use them. You're just not allowed to use them.
He's not an engineer anyway. So
so that's the thing. He was very rigid in his rules, and that was one of them. No Arduino.
He's not an engineer anyway.
Because he wanted to emphasize,
maybe I should.
I'll give him credit where credit is due. He wanted to emphasize it's not a hobby project. It was more like a real, I
know real world code though that's running Arduino, and
yes, people at work worked on projects that their demos would use a damn Arduino because one, it's accessible, anyone can make them.
Quick to develop.
You don't need a brand name. Any old Chinese manufacturer will put this chip on a board and say it's an Arduino, and it probably works.
And I even get the chip at Mauser and just put it on your own board.
Exactly.
So he's making a custom PCB, and we're gonna use Arduino on the custom PCB.
So I get it. I get the hate for Arduinos because they're not professional enough, because they're very accessible for hobbyists.
Would you consider an STM processor, like an STM32?
I would consider that
Arduino,
not a hobbyist.
You can run it in. You can run it with Arduino.
We're going to be running Arduino on an ESP32
yeah, it's the same thing with the ESP.
If I can figure it out, it's going to be a little bit of time, and I may need to make a few extra dev boards and stuff along the way. But it's something that I personally want to learn, so I'll invest the extra.
And I'm going to be writing a lot of the code and helping him write.
Are you cool if the first revision runs the SOIC 8-pin STM32G0 chip?
If it'll run
it's
Arduino,
a small
dude,
8-pin thing. It's
if it'll compile for Arduino, use whatever you want.
I'm almost certain it's not going to have Wi-Fi, but I don't think a breathalyzer, spoiler, needs to have Wi-Fi yet. Kyle, shut the fuck up.
Kyle wants an IoT breathalyzer. Anyway, let's go back
to answer your question, Chandler, I think the greatest hobbyist electronic microcontroller is going to be the Arduino because of how accessible it is.
The Arduino platform, or is there a specific board you want to point out?
Any of them, because I even think the Arduino Mega was great if you needed 20-something GPIO or 30 or 40 or however many there are.
Mega's really popular in the 3D printer space.
Yep. And again, it's $10 or less if you can find them for cheaper.
Yeah, they're like
very
50
convenient.
from Arduino. They're way cheaper.
If you just need, a handful of outputs, get the Nano one. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So Arduino in general, very good for hobbyists. I personally have an affinity for the Node MCU, which uses that ESP8266 Wi-Fi chip. Very useful if you don't want to have to worry about, or I guess a better way of wording it is very useful if you just want to play with Wi-Fi. Super easy to connect to your home network. For God's sake, don't try to connect to any corporate network on that thing because it's such a pain in the ass to use WPA2, enterprise, blah, blah, blah. Sucks.
Got it to work, but
sucks. So use it on your home network with a PSK. It's easy enough. So Node MCU is probably going to be my current pick. We got a lot of cheap ones from overseas that we were, it was easy enough to play with. But for my senior design project, they did let us use something that wasn't microchip. I love microchip. I'm a bit of a microchip simp because of one, how everything is in the manual. You get a 1,500-page manual with every single register with the interrupts and all the, you got timer modules.
Microchip has the best ones by far.
It's great. And you know what? I use Freescale/NXP/ whatever you want to call them these days at work, and the manuals are similar in quality to the microchip ones, so very in depth and everything. But I think the microchip ones are just a little bit better.
That's the problem.
Well, Freescale doesn't make them anymore. NXP makes them and sells them, but they're still whatever. Who cares?
They have the same model numbers.
It's complicated.
But they're a different company.
I would pick microchip because they're still a company, whereas Freescale is shifting hands and support and all that other stuff. Now, I would pick that, but in my experience working with the TI one, the TMC 123G Launchpad. Texas Instruments chip.
456.
I know. What a silly name. It's the starter one. It's called the TM4C123G.
Oh my gosh.
It was really easy to work with. I mean, it was a bit of a learning curve to use the IDE.
So I'm assuming it didn't use Arduino at all.
No, it's all C. It was like embedded C. So they
it's
had
kind of
all
like whenever I'd use MPLab to program a PIC. It's like
and it's like microchip. I don't think their documentation was as good as microchips. It was a little bit difficult for me to learn things like getting into the interrupt routines because we had to put interrupts in this dang thing because every time you get a message on the line, if you want to blink an LED and do stuff at the same time, you need to know how to do interrupts. That's a problem.
That's something I need to learn more.
Well, that's kind of why I like Arduino. You don't have to think about that. You can just do coroutines.
So if you were to ask me what controller do you want to recommend for anybody, I would say Arduino.
Anything that runs Arduino.
You can blink an LED in 15 minutes, and if that's what it takes for you to,
like 3 seconds.
Well,
all right.
Unless you're including the time to install the IDE.
I'm including you.
Bingo examples 01 blink, upload.
You take
It
your
takes
Arduino and your
3
breadboard
seconds.
and your USB cable, and you already have the ID installed, and you have all your materials. If it takes you,
You don't
longer
even
than 15
need an
minutes,
LED. The Arduino.
honey, not everybody knows all the programming you know. I'm saying, somebody
example.
Started
you
a
open the
nerd
blink
fight.
example.
for somebody who has no idea what a baud rate is.
You open the blink example and upload it.
What a
It blinks the
COM port is.
built-in LED.
What a COM port is. All right, not everybody can just do this in 3 clicks. Once you've done it before, yeah, it's really easy to do it. But if you're one of those people too, like my grandpa would always complain, you go too fast for me. I get it. Not everybody knows
All
what they're
right,
looking
fine,
for.
15
so
minutes,
the Arduino,
I'll
you
accept
plug it in the
defeat.
breadboard, you plug it in, and you have an LED. Right. Then, okay, you can learn that, and you can realize, oh my God, I can write code that like makes a LED blink. I can do anything. That is a very powerful moment that you can achieve in seconds if you're a pro, if you're a pro gamer move, or
I'm not
minutes.
a pro. I'm far from
Or
it.
minutes if you're not used to it. And that's one of the first things I did on the Raspberry Pi. They were like, here's a Raspberry Pi, it's free. Just play with it and do cool stuff. And we're like, okay. And then I made an LED blink and I'm like, I could do things with this.
do things with
Right.
this, yeah.
So that's one of the things that like it got me into it, and it's an accessible microcontroller. I have so many Arduinos I don't even know what to do with. So
I have a
It's-
lot too.
It's like your senior design project though, so they're probably afraid of you just going on some like how-to website and then you following like the step-by-step thing on
Yeah.
how-to, and you're getting your degree from just following the one how-to
Right,
document online.
yeah.
I would argue though that they should be smart enough to vet that.
but they're not. You know they're not, right?
That's
Right.
the problem.
It takes
Yeah.
time to vet things.
I know they didn't
The
read any of the
professors don't want
source
us
code.
to
I have
because
to do a senior design project as well, but my senior design project is all software. I don't do any hardware for mine.
That's kind of how I was. I was the software guy, and it was nice that I
Well,
did
no,
not
no,
do
no,
anything
no.
else.
My entire project has no hardware involved because it's a computer science.
Oh, okay.
So it's all programming. But anyway, so my
One podcast
favorite,
in the future, we should all go over what our senior design projects were. I think that'd be
Yeah.
fun.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, but one of my favorite
tuned.
I'll have to
microcontroller,
finish mine.
my favorite microcontroller that I've ever worked with has to be the ESP32. Now, the ESP32 is a newer, updated version of the ESP8266. I don't know which one I had, but the specific version of the one I had both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on it.
You're gonna have an ESP32 in that case.
Well, it is, but they have subsets and different versions.
It's the C3 or C3 or
It
C6.
had one core, it had like 1 megabyte of flash, and it
Yeah.
had like, yeah.
Sounds like the C3 board.
Yeah, but anyway,
C3
it was
They're
a
pretty
dev
using
board.
that
I bought it
to
from
have
Micro Center
yeah.
for $9.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
So, and either way, but here's the thing. Arduino is what came pre-installed, and you could run Arduino on it, which
Yes.
is what I prefer normally to run my programs in when I do microcontroller projects, which I
Can
don't
they
do
run
often anymore.
MicroPython or something? Or
Yes.
No?
That was the second thing I did with it, is try to get MicroPython running on it, because I'm a Python nerd. I
wonder
love
if-
Python. And here's the thing. It ran great. It connected right up to my network. I was able to program it to download information off the internet and
Can you use like
that
the
info-
requests library?
Yes.
No way.
Yeah. So I
What?
used that information. I used it's not called requests, it's called micro requests, because it runs in a MicroPython, yeah. But micro requests, I got it working, and I was able to make requests to my web server to get data. Well, basically what I was doing is I had a little tiny screen, and all it did is that it pinged the weather channel, and then it got the weather information.
That's a really cool project.
and
I like
displayed it on a little tiny screen.
that. For as simple as it is, that's a cool project. I like it.
Yeah, it's even more fun, I guess, if you like take a mirror or something and you can put like LEDs behind the mirror and make a like
Smart
weather,
mirror.
like smart mirror weather.
somebody
Yeah.
did that.
Another one that I did
I recall
was
seeing the project somewhere online.
I
don't
used an
remember exactly where.
ESP8266. This one was an ESP32, using MicroPython to have a button on my phone that would open my garage door.
Nice. Yeah.
cool.
That's awesome. I feel like there's maybe some security stuff.
All
there,
right.
but nah, whatever.
Always gotta get the security.
You had to be on
Ruin
my
all the
land to do
fun. Yeah.
You had to be in my LAN to do it, which I found a
yeah.
way around. It wasn't Bluetooth, it was Wi-Fi, but you had to be on my LAN. So
Bluetooth
LAN
LE garage door opener. Uh-oh.
So as long as you were on my local area network, you could do it. But
Bluetooth is a cluster.
The other one I wanted to do, the big one I wanted to do is I wanted to hook up my coffee maker. So all I had to do was wake up, hit a button, and it would make my coffee in the morning.
Somebody hacks your coffee
I actually
maker.
have a project that I really want to work on, but it's going to take some design work. I want to take an ESP8266 or some ESP32 module and build a PCB around it and make just a device that you can insert into the back of a like wall switch or whatever, and it'll act as a
smart
dual
switch.
and it adds a smart switch, right? So you can connect that to your home network and have a smart light or whatever. Turn it on from your phone, from your computer, or whatever.
Well, they have little modules that do that for like the Alexas and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, but it hooks up to an Amazon Alexa, and I want a smart home
then the other
that
thing
doesn't connect to big tech.
Even then, and on top of that too, it's very visible that you have one. It would be really cool to somehow build one into your wall.
Yeah, right. It's just built into the switch box itself. It sits in the back. It's got a little relay in there.
This sounds like something Alex is interested in.
Well, see, I've already done half
right
the work.
off the 120 volt AC, and then you just.
Here's how you do this, huh? You got an MQTT server, right? Broker. Sorry, it's a broker. It's not a server.
Yeah, we can run this on Kyle's NAS.
Yeah, Kyle's NAS runs by
You got
our big tech is Kyle's NAS.
Running on the NAS.
Big Kyle.
You've got a subscriber listening, running on the NAS on your whatever you want to say. What do you call that on the fly programming?
What?
When you run a program on the fly in your like
Lambda?
magic space? Lambda?
I don't know.
We've got a Lambda service running this MQTT subscriber.
Technically, it functions as a service.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And it's always subscribed to any new messages that come in. And then on your device, you got your ESP chattering over MQTT. And anytime you want to send a command, it's publishing and subscribing. So commands are bi-directional. And then you have the device on there, and you can have your little relay board, and you can flip your light switch, and you can have anybody on the internet turn your lights on and off. Great project.
It's an awesome idea. The problem is that we have to figure out a way to tap 5 volts off of 120 volt mains.
Use a standard stupid iPhone block.
No,
Yeah, 100%. You just get a 5
use a
volt.
transformer, or you could go transformer.
Oh wait, what about your ghetto ass transformer circuit you were showing me the
Well,
one day?
why don't you just run your Arduino on AC?
I was showing him a transformer.
It was the most ghetto circuit I've ever seen.
It's really
Here's the thing.
awesome.
It was getting to
Can
the
I
limits
explain
of
it?
my electrical engineering like knowledge, but I understood what was going on and I hated it.
Let's
Can I
hear it.
explain it?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can explain it 'cause
All
it's
right.
terrible.
It's terrible. It's one capacitor,
Oh, no.
one resistor,
RC circuit.
4 diodes.
Oh, so it's a bridge rectifier with an RC filter. So it's
Basically,
is it
you-
no, it's
you-
not half-wave rectified.
You
It's
use
full-wave
you
rectified.
use a massive
full bridge rectifier.
yes. You use a massive X-rated capacitor with a resistor in series to drop the 120
capacitive
volt
dropper.
mains. Yeah,
That's one of the
down to
worst power
5
supplies you
volt
can make.
AC. Yeah.
But it
DC,
works.
it's
But
DC.
dirt
But
cheap
it
and
works.
easy.
But it works,
then
and
you
it fits on
rectify
a
it to
single
5 volts.
PCB. That was the thing, though. He could fit this on a single PCB
Yes.
that we
it's
could then
tiny.
use.
Yeah,
It
you
is
just
beautiful.
Stuff it in.
You
Yeah.
can get away with it.
You get away with
It'll-
it.
If
It'll
you
take
use
up a lot
one
of-
single bridge rectifier, it's 3 components.
The QS and current will be a lot. but-
Yes, it would be a lot.
We just
You'll
have to
lose
put
lots
more
of power from
capacitors
it.
on
Yes.
it, right?
Yeah.
No, I think it's
It just
low-
also
low
heats your light
current, right?
switch.
Yeah. I don't know. Probably need to get more into AC power filtering and stuff to properly.
We have Kyle for that.
But all right, perfect. So yeah, maybe we should make this a
Did you
project.
take any of those?
Let's
Did you
do
take
it.
power? What is it? What was it called? There's a class on that at Akron.
I'm adding this.
No, there
to
was a
the
class
list.
at
There's a
Akron
class
that was
power
like about.
electronics.
Maybe that's what it was.
that
Yeah.
it?
That like. Did you take that?
Did you take active circuits?
No.
Active circuits.
We all avoided the really hard electrical engineering
Okay,
courses.
well, we
I took
know.
a couple
I'm
hard
sure.
electrical engineering courses
But here's
on
the
that
thing.
one.
I'm
I didn't
sure
want
that we know people that we could find that would help us with that.
I'm pretty sure we
can
can figure it out on our own. We're smart.
Or we need an extra.
We'll make
Terrifying.
something work.
We'll make something work.
all have-
even if
we
it
have
catches on
Google.
fire.
Yes,
We have big
we are
tech
armed
Google.
with Google.
Yeah,
Yes.
we are armed with
Or
Google and the ability
DuckDuckGo.
to search things up.
Yeah, we got about 15 minutes left. There's 2 more topics I wanted to touch upon. And one
Let's
of
hear
them,
it.
I never even
Well,
got
one
to
of them-
say my favorite
Oh,
micro.
what was your? Oh yeah,
What's your
okay. Let's
favorite
finish this
micro
one
controller?
first.
I think
don't know.
Alex's.
I don't really know.
That's all we care about.
Alex kind of covered all of them.
Yeah,
I
I know.
wanted to cover the 4 I've
Honestly,
worked
I'm a
with.
bit of an ST Micro fanboy, so
Yeah.
I'd probably say the STM.
The STMs are fun.
F series.
They look
because
cool.
they're awesome. They got so many cool things they can do. They come in a billion sizes. They can support direct USB. You just give it a crystal, give it USB, boom, you're up and running.
To be fair, that's the same with like in my well, I guess
it's
my
similar with a lot of processors.
my second
but-
favorite family of microcontrollers, which is the 8-bit AVR controllers.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I love the AVR controllers because all I got to do is I don't even need an oscillator. I just stick them in the breadboard
Yeah.
and they work. Like
Yeah.
It is nice to have the internal oscillator.
Yeah.
I noticed in the Freescale ones. That's
Yeah.
very convenient.
That
to
is
have your
very
bus clock
convenient,
with
I
your-
must say.
what are they? I think they go up to like 120 megahertz.
I can run it at
internal
8
clocking.
megahertz and it's good enough. It works.
Yeah.
Cool. It's fast enough for what I'm
120 megahertz is a lot for an embedded system.
It's fast enough to fucking blink an LED and move a servo. That's all it needs to do.
There was one other thing I wanted to say, and that I always feel so conflicted between Arduino and a Raspberry Pi, right? Because you can get an Arduino Uno
I'm gonna argue
for
that
$6 or $7, or you can get a Pi Zero W for $10.
Yeah.
And the Pi is so much more powerful.
But it's so much more
But
complicated.
It's also
too.
way more complicated. You
Uses
are
more
right.
power.
I would rather
If you run it on a
But
battery.
the Pi's got, It's built-in Wi-Fi, all that. You can output to a full display. You can connect a USB like keyboard and mouse to it. You
For
can
90% of my projects.
For 90% of small projects, it's not going to make a difference one way or the other.
Most of my projects are software projects. I would actually, 90% of my projects, a Pi is what I'm going to use because all I'm doing is running like a little micro server that I wrote.
Yeah.
Or I'm running this on my dedicated server that I also have.
A Pi is really good
But
for
those other
prototyping.
10% of projects, I want nothing to do with an operating system.
Yeah,
I want to run Arduino. And I don't
You
give
gotta dream in code.
Yeah, dream in code. Like, I don't give a crap about all these other like little like MP Lab and TI thing that he was talking about. No,
Composer
I
Studio.
just want to use Platform IO with Visual Studio Code, and I want to be able to hit PIO run, and guess what? It compiles.
And then it just runs when
and
you
then
give
it just
power.
works.
Yeah.
So,
is nice.
Kyle, do you want to weigh in real quick on what your favorite development board / microcontroller is?
My i7 or AMD processor.
Nice.
All right, fuck off with that.
But in general, I've used probably more Pis, and then outside of that, all the ones you've already stated.
The Arduinos.
The Arduinos, the ESP.
Nice.
Yeah,
I only used 8266. I don't think I've used the 32 personally.
Yeah.
Speaking of Raspberry Pis,
Yeah.
me
Delicious.
and Alex one day, we were messing around at work.
Oh, are you gonna talk about the
fork bomb.
Yeah, he's gonna talk about the fork bomb. I knew
Yeah,
it.
we were screwing around at work one day, and we decided
Good
to
meme.
try to run a fork bomb on a Raspberry Pi.
What is a
that
fork
I brought.
bomb?
I just wanted to know what would happen.
Good
So a
question.
fork
I
bomb
don't
is
know.
like maybe 10 characters. I don't know the exact one.
I'm gonna go look up the code.
A
real
fork
quick.
bomb is 10 characters.
A fork bomb is a 10-character command, which the idea of this command is that if you run it in your Linux terminal, that it's going to create another function that then runs itself, that then runs another function that is itself. So it's basically a recursive loop that locks up your processor. So the idea of it is that it keeps forking itself into a new process tree that then forks itself. So it's an infinite loop of basically making your computer have to restart.
So what I just highlighted is a fork bomb.
Okay, so for all of us at home who think that this is possible to parse, it's colon, opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis, and then angle or curly brackets that have a space, another colon, a pipe, another colon, an ampersand, a space, and then the closing curly brace, a semicolon, and another colon, which can be understood as defining a function called fork that then runs fork piped to fork. I don't know what the ampersand does, and then calls itself again.
The ampersand just kind of runs it and then gives it out of stdin.
So it runs itself in the background.
Yes.
And then runs itself in the back. I mean, then it happens forever. So I'm not. Yeah.
A function that calls itself twice.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's what it is.
Every time,
Every
right.
time, and then recreates itself. And the idea is that over time, depending on how much, it's all big. Some fast systems should do it quicker, but then
Right.
fast systems should be also able to handle the fork bomb more. It's complicated on how.
So basically, you brick this Pi.
You brick the system, but all you have to do is restart it. You're not like
Here's the thing.
corrupting
Well,
anything.
unless if you make it happen like automatically
Or
in
if you
startup.
put it on
Now
startup.
that'd be a good way to ruin someone's computer. Yes.
You just have
Well,
to
just their
reinstall the
operating
OS.
system.
Yes.
But like,
I
when-
made a hardware fork bomb.
Yes.
I remember we hooked up.
inside your CPU and it can't work
Here, the
anymore.
CPU acts as a fuse.
I remember hooking up this Raspberry Pi, and
Yeah.
I think we hooked it up over serial.
Yeah, we were watching it on Serial.
because we couldn't get SSH to work.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
he put in the fork bomb,
It
and
was
he
like, and that's it. Enter. And then we waited. And we're like, oh, that's it. And nothing happened. So I mean, it instantly locked up the entire terminal and it was dead. So
Yeah,
it was
it was
very funny to
nice.
watch.
it was very dead. So
processor's going brr. I'm doing
Yeah,
the best
it's
I
like-
can.
so yeah, we locked up a Pi because we thought it'd be fun.
It was a fun joke. I like
Yeah,
that.
because that was the day. So I
joke.
think that day was like the day after the 4th of July, and me and Alex were the only two
Hey,
people that
man,
came
fireworks,
to work.
yeah.
No, we were the only two
There
people
you
that
go.
came to work. Our supervisors didn't even come to work. It was just me and Alex in the
Oh
office.
man, it was a lawless environment when the supervisors are all on your holiday or whatever.
A
You know, they're-
lawless environment? What, where you run fork bombs on Raspberry
Well, no, because
Pis?
we're in a restricted access area, so nobody comes in to bother us, and we
my
can just do
gosh.
whatever the hell we want. I can't tell you how many times
We
Vinny,
had an
shout
entire
out to Vinny.
electronics lab to ourselves.
I mean,
Vinny
that's
would be
awesome.
whatever we
watching
wanted.
those Minecraft shitpost videos
my
and
God.
just like blaring them, and then
Yeah,
every
but
time
can
someone would
your-
come in, he'd just like freeze up. Like,
Oh my gosh.
was
Yeah,
a
but
good
can
time.
your microwave run Minecraft?
oh man,
man.
yeah, we definitely we learned a lot.
Fork bombs, crash pies.
Making my microwave run Linux.
Oh my god.
Why?
I'm pretty sure most of them already do. Anyway,
Well, the ones that
nowadays.
run Alexa definitely do, because Alexa's built on Ubuntu Core. Fun fact.
I'm sorry. What? There
All the
are
sharp ones have a
microwaves that
dedicated
run
chip.
Alexa.
Yes, Amazon sells $50 microwaves that have Alexa built in.
That's awesome.
I don't want.
Fun fact,
Alexa, please microwave my head with the door open. Anyway,
Alexa, please transport me to some weird anime
All the
world.
people who have a Amazon device right now, their Amazon device is like, we're calling social services.
you should know by now. Listen with headphones. That's all I'm going to tell you. Change the active word for your device.
I'm not
Change
gonna
it.
mute this out. If you're listening to this without headphones, I don't know what your problem is.
Yeah.
Your problem is you own an Alexa. So
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Chandler, I think you
I
have
am
one
an
final
owner.
thing you
Well,
wanted
Hold
to
on,
mention.
I gotta do one more thing.
Okay, we got to hear this.
Alexa, call mom.
You haven't spoken to your mother in a while. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so anyway.
GPT-3.
GPT-3.
Ooh, fun.
That's exciting.
It's
Yes.
terrifying. I've used it before.
What is GPT-3?
It is natural. It is. It's
Nobody knows.
I
It
don't
doesn't
know.
matter.
They
We all know what it
stripped
is, and nobody
Wikipedia,
knows
now
what it
they've got
is.
an AI that can output sentences
Kyle
like a
knows.
human. I don't know.
What is it, Kyle?
I'm looking it up.
So GPT-3 is a name of a third generation of a name of an algorithm made by this company called OpenAI. And what it does is it was made to complete sentences, like Ian was saying.
Yes.
So you give it an input, and then it would complete it. So the interesting thing is, in order to get this to happen, you kind of like need to know a lot about English in general, and also English words, like, because the boy owns a cat. He named his cat Bob. Bob played with his. And then if we were to complete that, you'd have to know about cats and the types
Right.
of things that cats play with.
GPT-3
You know?
allows you to do that.
You'd have to
Yeah.
know Bob is a name. You'd
Fun
have to know
fact:
that.
GPT-3 stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer Generation 3.
Wow, I
my
hate
God,
that
I
name.
hate it.
GPT is way better.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have about like
Belong-
we have like 5 minutes left. By the
Okay.
way. But anyway, I've actually used GPT-3 before. I've actually played with it. I got access to the API. Which
Everyone
fun
can have access to it now, though. It's actually open.
It is
How is
open
that?
now, but
Oh,
it's
nice.
open, but you have to pay for it, I believe.
right.
Or is it open source? Or are they fully open source?
I think like there's a trial period, like most pieces of software.
Yeah, I remember hearing
Yeah,
that
the
they
reason
for
why
it.
they're doing it this way is because they released GPT-2 open source, so that you can go download the source
Right.
code and run it yourself on any computer you want. I got it to run on a Pi. It
Not-
ran horribly, but it worked.
Yeah, the thing is, it depends, right? Because GPT-2 is like really processor intensive because it.
GPT-3 is almost impossible to run on a system without a data center.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is
not
that-
only
there we go.
that, but they're also afraid of bad actors utilizing it in bad
Why you
ways.
have to pay for it.
Well, I mean,
you
like
have
that's
to
why
pay
they
for it.
didn't release it, period, to the public, but now it is released to the public, actually. So like they
Interesting.
Well, they're pretty confident they can stamp out the bad actors though. They have control over who has access to API keys. So
Fair enough.
Well, they actually didn't even release GPT-2 for that very same reason for like
Really?
2 years.
Interesting.
They're like,
So I
actually-
wonder if at some point GPT-3 will eventually come to.
Whenever
I think
GPT
it will.
comes
Right now.
along.
Yeah,
or
but, like,
3.1,
open source
you
is
know.
what he's
Open
saying.
source and
I think it is open
usable.
source. The thing is, that
I'm
in order to
looking
run
this
it,
up
you need
right
a data
now.
center yourself.
Because
Oh,
the
got
GPT-3
it.
is open
gotta
source,
know.
I'm gonna find a way to run this on my server.
Your server can't
Kyle's
run
I'm
it.
gonna find a way.
Oh, yeah,
we need
something
like
to have
8
enough
more
VRAM.
NASs.
I'm going to catch Kyle's
We need
NAS
more
on
cores.
there.
Larry, your
More
house
cores
is our
is more
new data
better.
center, buddy. Yeah, right.
Boy, he's gonna have free heating in the winter
Yep.
and in the summer.
The answer is no.
No. All right.
GPT-3, there is a repo called GPT-3 on the OpenAI thing. However,
GPT-3 is the exact same thing, if I recall. The GPT is the exact same thing. Same algorithm, everything.
the
GPT-2,
new trend is
just
also
scaled up.
GPT-J, which is a fork of GPT-2 that's supposed to be runnable on a normal computer.
Interesting.
And slightly more trained.
Interesting.
The kind of interesting thing about GPT-2 when it first came out and they were too afraid to run it is that when they like made a little internal test just to showcase what it can do,
Yeah.
and it had to generate articles for like news stories, and then they
Ah,
read the news
yes.
stories. And they totally sounded like legit articles. Like some person just went through and they just
Yeah.
it sounds like a human BSing an article.
Right.
essentially.
Dude, I used to for fun, we would run this and I'd be on a Discord call and people would give me prompts. And I
The
would,
party
I-
trick.
and
Use
I would-
GPT for
yeah.
your
I
fun
highly
for your
recommend
friends and
everyone
family.
goes out and do this. Actually, it's
I would,
hilarious.
I would
I
run
do
this
need to
through,
mess with
dude.
it.
It read like my crazy uncle's Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Just, I put in, and you might have to censor these. I put in Obama, Bin Laden, 9/11.
Susan YouTube is not happy about this.
And it read, and like, I don't even remember what it was, but it looked like my uncle talking about like some crazy alt-right conspiracy theory with Bush did 9/11 or something. Like, it was hilarious.
Some excellent light reading material for your crazy uncle.
Colby suggested
Yes,
that I
sir.
start
Take his gospel.
a satirical news website like The Onion, but
Oh
I
my
just
God.
generate all the articles using GPT-2.
Too real. You need to use GPT-1 or else people will think it's too serious.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is that I told him that I don't want to do that for that
Yeah.
very reason.
Yeah.
I think people will think I'm being serious,
Get in
and
that,
that's a problem.
Babylon Bee
Ever been on
territory.
r/8 The Onion?
Yeah, lots of people eat the onion, and it's only the people that you don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
God,
It's a
I feel like
problem.
the Onion's gotten worse as of late. I don't know. They used to do really funny things like 10, 12 years ago.
It's actually, I think that I would argue it's just you've grown up and you realize how sad and depressing the world really is.
Oh no, I only
believe him.
ever found out about the Onion a couple years ago.
Oh, all right, well, fair enough.
I don't know. They did some really funny video like, how does an Olympic archer avoid shooting arrows into the crowd? And now and now it's just the weekly digest or whatever, which is still, funny, but it's not quite the same level of,
Yeah,
what
I
they
kind
used
of
to
I kind
have.
of want to do a video with GPT 2 or 3 that
We'll do 2 because it's free.
Yeah.
that is related to making like having a cooking series video.
Oh,
where,
boy.
Oh, you want
the
us to cook with
instructions-
GPT-3?
Yes, the
Have it generate a
instructions
recipe.
are generated by
God.
GPT 2 or 3.
I'm horrified.
I had it
They
generate a
are
recipe and it was bad.
hilarious. And if we try to follow those instructions to the T, we might burn someone's house down.
Yeah.
But
I've seen something like this before. I don't remember what it was, but it was just the instructions were so vague. You really had to have some creative freedom.
Take the
Where it's like,
gasoline and fry
get,
your
get
steak.
the item hot, and then you're just like, what does that
no,
mean?
it's very
my gosh.
explicit. It's just explicitly wrong. But if you took any sentence out of context, it sounds kind of like a cooking instruction.
Right.
Oh,
it's like,
no.
take the turkey and put it on the platen in the oven. Cook on
Guys,
high.
we should just make a blog that we just have it post GPT post to as a
Oh my
meme.
God.
Honestly, there's probably half of the internet is already like
We
that.
just-
We just don't know.
Half the internet
We're
is
bad at
bots.
We can't tell.
It's just GPT-2 bots. and we
Everybody
can't
on the
tell.
internet is a bot but you.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we have about
Healthy
2
dose of
minutes and 30
solipsism to
seconds left.
ponder.
Thank you again for the readout, Chandler.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you guys can see the clock, but
we can.
do you guys have any closing thoughts, or do you want to continue the GPT conversation, or what do you guys want to talk
I'll
about?
just make one last joke. We just feed all of our podcasts into GPT-2, and then we have GPT-2 regenerate like blog articles and other garbage for us.
Generate the description on YouTube.
Yeah,
Well, we
exactly.
need to
I'm
first. We
sure
need to do
that'll
natural
work well.
language processing.
Yeah.
We need to first extract all of the us talking into text first.
Wait, what's that?
Thanks, I hate it.
What's that? There was a tool that used to do that.
The script?
named
The
after-
script is a popular one.
Lyrebird.
Lyrebird.
Oh, the
still there?
Lyrebird shut down. I'm so sad that Lyrebird disappeared.
Oh, it did?
Because
What is
you could, like-
Lyrebird?
dude,
So-
Lyrebird was so cool. You could
Yeah.
like feed your voice to it, and it would generate a really, really close
Yes.
clone of your voice.
Oh,
I
that's
did
awesome.
one in a funny accent just to see what would happen, and I think you had to say like maybe
was like
20
100 words.
sentences. It
Yeah.
wasn't that many, yeah. And it would just be like, say these sentences, and then by the end of it, you were able to like a speech
You
to
made your
text.
own
You
Siri.
could type in any text, and
Yeah.
it would sound like you, and it was pretty weird.
It still sounded a little bit robot-y.
Yeah, it
but
was a little
good
robot-y.
enough that like I would want it.
anyone would
James
recognize it was
Beach,
me making a
comedian
silly
on YouTube
voice.
recently did something using a similar thing where I don't recall exactly who it was. The guy from like the Discovery Channel-y sort of nature.
The
Like
concern with
Attenborough?
Lyrebird.
I think it was Attenborough.
David Attenborough.
Yeah, I think he fed a bunch of lines
Nice.
from David into something like that, and then regenerated
Oh,
his own
perfect.
funny.
The
like, script
concern
thing,
is
yeah.
though is that people are going to use that technology to make really incriminating
Right.
videos of people with
That's
deep
correct.
fakes and with the Lyrebird.
The weird thing
and-
though is like if you are determined, you can do that on your own right now today.
Right. That's, I think,
You're
what
not
we're
wrong,
saying.
yeah.
Even on the website, I think one of the 3 examples they had was they had taken so many of, at the time, President Obama's like text, all of his
Speeches?
speeches,
Yeah.
and they fed that into their AI to have tons of training data. But then that was one of the examples was you could use that. But then they're like, well, here's in the privacy policy, you own the rights to your voice, and we may ask you to like be able to offer you money to use your voice, but we'll never use it without your permission. But then it was like, well, yeah, but how can you enforce all of those rules? It gets very complicated.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting project, but I understand how it
I should
ultimately
mention-
didn't work out.
That doesn't mean I think that these tools should be regulated. I'm not.
The problem is these
against
tools
regulation at
exist
all.
now and they will
Yes, they
continue.
already
And they
exist.
don't have it regulation, and you can download all the open source code and stuff for them. All right.
Yeah.
So like, I would love to do that. I think that'd be another cool casual coders project.
So
Turn
it's
our
just-
voices into robot voices.
It's just funny to
Yo,
hear.
Make
and
our
then-
own home assistant that's Alex's voice.
I think that would be super sick.
That would be really cool.
The one.
Hey, Alex. It works.
It works. I don't understand. Why am I using
Rip everyone out there who's named Alexa, by the way.
Yeah, right. I think it's a
Or
less
just not
popular
just
name.
Alex's voice, but imagine like you could pick any one of our friends' voice and use it. I think
Yeah.
that'd be a cool project to do.
It would be
Yeah, that makes
interesting.
sense. One thing I think is kind of sad though is for these companies that do exist and then they go out of business.
Lyrebird didn't go out of business; they were bought out.
Yeah.
Oh, were they bought out?
They were
They are
bought
just
out,
not Lyrebird anymore.
Gotcha.
Someone else bought it.
I think it would be kind of an
There's another
interesting
AI
concept
company,
is if your business goes out of business and so your code normally would go stagnant, if it would instead get released open source.
That's what I want to do. If like say
It's
for
like a
so-
kill
okay,
switch.
Okay,
Projects, but
like
it's
closing
rare.
thoughts.
Dead man switch in your code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts. Say one of my startups doesn't work out, which the odds are probably one of them won't.
Yeah.
You don't say.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. Like not all of my startups are gonna work out. My goal is I would like to open source the code that doesn't work out. Like simple as that. I want to open source the code that doesn't work. Someone can take advantage of it. Hey, if Amazon or Twitch wants to use it, feel free. Like if I open source it and I release under a permissive license, do whatever you want with it, guys.
Yeah.
Like I just want to see my idea eventually turn into something with
I'm
that
all for
open source
open-sourcing
code.
projects.
Yeah. That being said, that's not going to happen until we decide. Yep, it flopped. All right, cool. Here's the code.
None of mine are open source yet, but someday. I'll
Maybe
get 'em all.
someday.
I need to
Maybe
collect
one
them
of
all.
these days.
I actually
yeah.
hope not, because then I'll
I
be
feel like I want to
to
finish them first, or at least get them working.
All right, guys. Well, I think
Something
that
to
was the
think
Casual Coders podcast. This is one of our more technical episodes, I think.
Definitely one
Yeah.
of the more technical
lot about
ones, but
casual
it,
code. I
really enjoyed
worked
it, though.
pretty well. We actually brought back the namespace. We haven't talked about code in a long time. We gotta do that every once in a
Yeah,
while.
gotta remember.
Well, usually
what
it's just
we're
tech.
here.
Gotta remember
We
our
just talk about
roots.
tech.
Yeah, we're the
usually.
weird tech
Geopolitical
podcast.
conflicts.
Geopolitical conflicts and technology.
Oh God. Yeah. I also find it pretty funny that we're the casual coders, but we're all professional programmers by trade. Anyway.
It happens. I mean, whatever. I think I'm the one that came up with that. Me
Fair
and
enough.
Kyle are the ones that came up with that
It's
name
catchy.
too.
You
I like it. It's catchy.
We like
it's
it. We
good.
love
It's
it.
just it's
It
just
works.
pretty funny. The nice juxtaposition of casual coders
Yes.
versus literally professional programmers.
Sometimes
So-
we're casuals. Sometimes we talk about
yeah,
code.
exactly. Casuals in our free time.
We don't want to owe you too much. Well, we hope you enjoyed watching this podcast. I certainly enjoyed being here with everybody and chatting for quite a while about some casual code and all sorts of other unrelated topics. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.